Test 1, 2, 3. Good evening, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to our council meeting for Wednesday, July the 10th, 2024 at 7 p.m. I'm going to call our meeting to order. I'm going to start with our land acknowledgement. Penetanguishene respectfully acknowledges that we're on the traditional and treaty territory of the Anishinaabe people and their ancestors, now known as the Williams Treaties First Nation territory. This includes the Chippewa Tri-Council, comprised of Bosley First Nation, Rama First Nation, and the Georgina Island First Nation, Alderville, Curve Lake, Hiawatha, and the Mississaugas of Scugog Island First Nations. Also once home of the Huron-Wendat and more recently the historic settlement of the Métis, Penetanguishene is now home to many Indigenous peoples. Penetanguishene is proud of its Indigenous name and, more importantly, that for thousands of years it has been and will continue to be an important homeland and gathering place for Indigenous people. We recognize that we are the stewards and caretakers of these lands and waters and are responsible to ensure that our Mother, the Earth, is here for future generations. Again, welcome everyone to our council meeting tonight. I appreciate you being here. I'm going to ask council if you can stand, and Councillor Roux, if you can guide us in our council commitment, please.
Engagement du Conseil pour la ville de Penetanguishene. Nous sommes reconnaissants des nombreuses grâces accordées à Penetanguishene et à ses citoyens dont la liberté, les possibilités et la paix dont nous jouissons. Que nous soyons des intendants dignes de tout ce qui nous a été confié, nous demandons que toutes les personnes présentes et celles qui n'ont pas pu se présenter nous aident à promouvoir une bonne gouvernance. Que nos décisions à titre de membres du Conseil soient éclairées et que nous soyons tous renforcés à prendre conscience de nos devoirs et responsabilités. Que l'on nous accorde la sagesse, les connaissances, la volonté et la compréhension qui nous permettront de préserver la bonne fortune de la ville au bénéfice de tous, ainsi que de faire de bonnes lois et prendre de sages décisions. Merci de votre présence.
Thank you, Councillor Roux and Councillor Marchand.
Council commitment for the town of Penetanguishene. We are grateful for the many gifts which have been bestowed on Penetanguishene and its citizens, including the gifts of freedom, opportunity, and peace that we enjoy. May we be worthy custodians of all that has been entrusted to us. We ask that all in attendance and those who could not be here assist us in promoting good governance. May our decisions as members of council be enlightened, and may we all be strengthened in our awareness of our duties and responsibilities. May we be granted the wisdom, knowledge, will, and understanding to preserve the good fortune of the town for the benefit of all, to make good laws and wise decisions. Thank you all for attending.
Thank you, Councillor Marchand. A little off script here. Sarah, by chance, you have the public safety announcement you can produce? Thank you.
Hello, and welcome to this evening's council meeting. Before we start, just a few messages. For those that require the washrooms are located just outside of council chambers, to the right, down the hall. Town hall is protected by a single source fire alarm system. Should the fire alarm activate, please exit the building through the rear doors or the side doors, make your way down to the parking lot closest to the church. In the event of a medical emergency, please dial 911. The address for Town Hall is number 10 Robert Street West in Penetanguishene. And I'd like to remind everyone that we have a public access defibrillator just outside of council chambers. I wish you a safe and good council meeting. Bonsoir et bienvenue à la ville de Penetanguishene et à la salle de conseil. Avant que nous commençons ce soir, une couple de messages. Si vous avez besoin les chambres de bain sont situées juste à l'extérieur de la salle de conseil, au bout du corridor à votre droite. La salle de conseil est protégée d'un système d'alarme à feu de 1 stage. Si l'alarme à feu sonne, veuillez quitter la salle de conseil par les portes à l'arrière ou de côté et on se rejoint dans le stationnement près de l'église. En cas de problèmes médicaux, veuillez signaler le 911. L'adresse ici est le numéro 10 rue Robert-Ouest à Penetanguishene et je veux vous rappeler qu'il y a un défibrillateur public juste à l'extérieur de la caserne. Je vous souhaite une bonne soirée. Merci. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sarah, and to Chief Renault for that. Again, welcome everyone to attending our council meeting tonight. Recently, our neighbors in Midland lost a council member in Councillor Jim Downer. I just ask if we can all just have a moment of contemplation, reflection on his contributions to North Simcoe. Thank you, everyone. If you're here this evening and would like to address council, we do have an open forum session. I'll just have you go to Madam Clerk to register for that part of the agenda. Council, moving on, number 4 is our approval of the agenda. I have a motion that the agenda of the regular council meeting for July the 10th, 2024 be approved as presented. It's moved by Councillor Marchand, second by Councillor Vadabonker. We'll call for the vote. All in favor? And opposed? That is carried. Number 5 is a declaration of pecuniary interest. Any members of council have a declaration of pecuniary interest tonight? Councillor Waters.
Oh, sorry. Matter 12, referring to 40 Edward Street. I do have a relative that has property that backs onto that property.
Thank you, Councillor Waters. We'll make sure at that point in the agenda that's been noted as well. Any other members, any declaration of pecuniary interest? Thank you. Moving on to item 6 is our open forum. Again, this is the opportunity for members of the public to address council on any matters that's important to you. Madam Clerk, could anyone register for open forum this evening?
Thank you, Your Worship. We do have 3 registrants for open forum this evening. The first is going to be attending through Zoom, and her name is Sarah Lattiser. Her description of speaking content is a request for exemption to bylaw 2014-29.
Thank you. And just for everyone's perspective, it's 2 minutes time to address council. And Sarah, or sorry, our Sarah, is Sarah online?
Sarah is online. Sarah, if you mind turning on your camera and microphone, that would be great. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone.
Sarah.
Bonjour. Oh, good evening. Can you hear me okay?
We can.
Okay, sorry about that. I'm here tonight to ask for an exemption to be able to get a pet mini pig. Since the beginning of June, I have been in communication with the town clerk to try and apply for an exemption. After a departmental review that took place on July 9th, it had been decided that my application for an exemption needed to go before the council. I am here tonight to ask for the exemption to be able to have a pet mini pig, one that would live inside my home with me full time, litter trained, not allowed outside unsupervised. Please know that I do have a fenced in yard. Any waste that would come from a pet mini pig would be taken away to a farm in the country where I board my horse, to ensure that no smell would come from my property, as I have nothing but respect for my neighbors and for the town. Please know that I have spent countless hours educating myself on what it means to be a responsible mini pig owner. I am not here tonight to ask for an amendment to be made to the bylaw. I am simply asking for the council to pass a motion to grant an exemption so that I may be able to have a pet mini pig. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sarah. Madam Clerk, you have a second person?
Thank you, Your Worship. Yes, we have Lisa Creighton, hopefully I'm pronouncing that properly, regarding Burkeville School building site.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. I'll have you come to the podium. And again, you have 2 minutes to address council. Thank you for your attendance.
And you can hear me? Okay. Hello, my name is Lisa Creighton. I'm a member of the Burkeville School Parent Council and a mother of 2. My daughter currently attends Burkeville. She is going to grade 6 in September. My son graduated from Burkeville virtually in 2021 during the pandemic. Penetang is not my hometown, but my husband and I decided a decade ago that it would be our children's hometown. When we moved to the area, we were trying to decide which school to send our kids to, and so many people recommended Burkeville. mentioned things like the high quality of programming, amazing presence in the community, and that it's just basically a great school to grow up in. We've been a very proud members of the Burkeville community. As the student population has grown year over year, you all know, the student body has outgrown the physical school space. Stopgaps were put in place to make the yard bigger, but it's still quite small. Break times and recesses are staggered. All kids can't go out at the same time because it's not enough space to be safe in the playground. So no matter the hurdle that that the admin and staff have been thrown and challenges together as the population has grown, they've become creative. My son was one of the grade 7, 8 students in the gym when they had a classroom in the gym, 50 kids and 3 teachers. And through all of that, Burkeville has carried on. And now we know the Burkeville community has secured funding from the government to build a new school. I'm here to ask that council consider building at the 51 Dunlop site where PSS was. I know there are many in the community who would support that recommendation. And just as a parent, while my kids probably won't still attend Burkeville when it gets built, just from timing, Burkeville is at the heart of this community, as you all know. The kids that come up through the school are part of Winterama parades and caroling at the town dock and all kinds of things in the community.
Lisa, that's your time. I appreciate it.
Okay,
I appreciate you
thanks.
addressing us tonight.
I should have done it. Thank you.
Madam Clerk, I believe you have another participant for the open forum.
Thank you, Your Worship. The book is back there, but from memory, it's Deborah Kennedy, who's also here to speak about 51 Dunlop related to Burkeville School.
I'll welcome you to the podium. And again, it's 2 minutes.
Hello, my name is Deborah Kennedy. I've had 2 kids that have just recently graduated last year and this year from Burkeville. Our journey with Burkeville Protestant School began as a whisper. We started house hunting in 2018. We went through over 50 houses in the Tiny Tay, Midland, and Penetanguishene area. And as we went through, we heard all these whispers about this wonderful school. You've got to have your kids here. It's an amazing staff. They have so many opportunities. While parents of 2 school-age kids, we started getting very interested in this school, and we started finding it, trying to figure out where it was. And without a doubt, we found Burkeville Protestant School. And this became our home because of that. We established right here in Penetanguishene. And you see, a great school creates a great neighborhood and a positive growing community. Now, why else should Burkeville's new school be at 51 Dunlop? Well, it's because it has a wonderful forest and open spaces. And I'm also a teacher, and I know that that's why we need to have that. 51 Dunlop offers treat areas for outdoor learning. As an educator, I constantly spend time daily outside my students, improving their well-being, self-regulation, risky play, teamwork, environmental knowledge, and connections to Mother Earth. Being outside allows our students to reconnect with their roots, learn about the Indigenous teachings, being true to their meaning in their life, solve problems, work together, breathe in fresh air, see wildlife, run and exercise, and experience a true chance to be happy. Our community of Penetanguishene can offer these opportunities for our future Burkeville students. And as an educator of 25 years, a parent of 2 recent Burkeville graduates, as I said, in 23 and 24, and a family of tax-paying at Penetanguishene citizens, we plead with our council to make the right choice for providing the future Burkeville students 51 Dunlop site for the new Burkeville Protestant School. Thank you.
Thank you very much for addressing us this evening. Madam Clerk, do you have another participant?
Thank you, Your Worship. Yes, we have one last joint open forum presentation from Grace and Kaya, who with their speaking content regarding the new Burkeville School.
Welcome.
Good evening, Mayor Rawson and town councilors. My name is Grace Larmond.
And I'm Kaya Peel.
We are proud students of Burkeville Protestant Separate School here in Penetanguishene. We would like to thank you for giving us a couple of minutes to speak to you all. When we heard about the ministry's approval for a new Burkeville school, we were so excited for our students, staff, and community. Today, we are here to ask you for your consideration in helping this new school become a reality as soon as possible. The land at the old PSS would be a great spot for Burkeville, as well as a fantastic partnership with the town and its proposal for some of the land space that is there.
We want to start off by making the council aware that both Grace and myself will not be around to experience the new school ourselves, as the projected date of the school opening will be when we are in secondary school. However, being a part of the school community and knowing how important it is for future students and staff, we wanted to do what we could to help make this happen. As Burkeville students, we are very fortunate to have such a caring and supportive staff and community to make our educational experience such a positive one with so many varied opportunities. Many students have been at Burkeville for their entire elementary years and know nothing but a school like Burkeville. Both Kaya and I have been to other elementary schools, and even though our staff is the best, the school environment lacks space and modern facilities that other schools provide. Over the last half a dozen years at Burkeville, students have had to be bused to another building to have our physical education classes. They have had to be bused to the local church for our instrumental music instruction, and they have had and still have our library on its stage. The library had to be moved out of a normal room to the stage to make room for another classroom. We no longer have a dedicated space for our makerspace program or change rooms for our gym. These are only a few of the accommodations made by staff and students. As mentioned earlier, the staff at our school has made the best of what they have and provided all students with a great experience. However, we deserve the same opportunities that other students in our province and town are able to get. With this new building, these experiences and opportunities will be able to happen right on site. There could also be so many other possibilities with a new space and modern facilities that will be in the new Burkeville. We might even be able to host a sports game in a regular sized gym. I'm sure all of you would be able to relate to having something new in your lives, how you feel and what it can do for you, whether it be a new car, a new home, a new computer, anything new. That is what the Burkeville community is so anxious to experience. And I ask you to think, if your child or grandchild was a student like ourselves at Burkeville, would you want them to experience this new school while they were still in elementary school? I hope your answer would be yes, which brings us to our last point. We need a place to build our school. We would really hope that the town and board can work together to find a way to make the land become available, to make the new Burkeville Protestant Separate School a reality for all of Penetanguishene. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Grace and Kaya, for your leadership and your courage to address us tonight. So thank you so much. Madam Clerk, that was it for participants this evening. Thank you. We're moving on, Council. Next is a statement from members. It's an opportunity for Council to share with the community what Council's been doing. We'll start with Councillor Drush.
Thank you very much. I had the pleasure and honor of attending the National Indigenous Peoples Day celebration and flag raising on Thursday, June 20th. It was held here at just beside the municipal office in the Yvon Gagné courtyard. It was a wonderful opportunity to recognize all Indigenous peoples, First Nations, Inuit, and Métis, and to celebrate Indigenous culture, languages, and identities and contributions to Canada. I'd like to take the opportunity to thank staff who made it possible to host this event in Penetanguishene. I also attended Canada Day, and I'm sure others will mention it, so I'll make mine short and sweet. It was at our very own museum, and as usual, it did not disappoint. Great event, thanks to staff and many, many wonderful volunteers, so thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Drush. Councillor Waters.
I spent quite a bit of the month soliciting downtown merchants in the downtown core, collecting information for a business map. And of course, I heard a lot of their comments. The biggest concern they seem to have would be parking downtown, or the lack of parking downtown. On June 24th, we had our library board meeting. Of course, we had Canada Day, and I had the honor of chauffeuring our deputy mayor through the Midland Parade. And after that, we went to the museum and I handed out cupcakes. I even saw a few people there that I knew. And then this week we had our economic development meeting and tonight's council.
Thank you, Councillor Waters, and appreciate the feedback on the parking. And we do have the parking survey and questionnaire open for public consultation. Councillor Leroux.
Thank you, Your Worship. I also attended the Indigenous Day celebrations held in the Yvon Gagné Parkette next door. And then the other event that I can speak on that I was very, very pleased because I've been attending the Canada Day July 1st celebrations at our museum for well over 25 years. And I have to say that this past July 1st was probably the greatest crowd that we ever had. The weather was unbelievable and the people came by the droves. We had thousands and it was very exciting. And needless to say that these events, as many others as we know, cannot be held without the help of volunteers and so forth. So I have to take this occasion to thank the friends of this Penetanguishene Tyndale Museum and all their volunteers. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Leroux. Councillor Marchand.
Thank you, Your Worship. A couple things for me. I will echo Canada Day was absolutely amazing and really well put together at the museum. Certainly, I heard we ran out of food and, made lots of trips to make sure that we stayed stocked up. So that was wonderful to see. Attended SSCA special meeting for the month of June to get things finalized for our for our 2025 budget, which we have put to rest, which is great. I attended and represented the town at the Le Canon graduation, where I had the honor of presenting to 3 young adults that evening, bursaries that are supported by the town and an award that is done provincially. So as a Francophone and a member of this community, it was certainly an honor to be there to represent the town of Penetanguishene. The other thing I really wanted to highlight, and Jamie, I'm happy to see you here this evening, is I really wanted to just do a special shout out to the Penetang Midland Ball Hockey Association and specifically the Penetanguishene Blazers. We have a lot to be proud of, and I would really like to see these young adults and many members of our regional program be recognized and represented just this past weekend at provincials. So the Penetanguishene Blazers teams, we had the U18 AA boys and girls, the UA16 boys, and the U13 AA girls take home the championship gold medal and represented us proudly over the weekend, and our Ontario Ball Hockey Association champions. So a big round of applause for those wonderful young individuals who represented us provincially. I think just kudos to all of the amazing work that was done there. And for some of the young women and boys, the U18, this was their last opportunity to represent as provincial championships. And a real shout out to Curtis, who's the coach of the U18 team. I know he wanted this and this was his first win. And so just a really wonderful representation and just really proud. And thank you for representing our town so well. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Marchand. Councillor Vadabunker.
Thank you, Your Worship. Kudos to Councillor Marchand for raising the Penetanguishene Blazers. That's where I was this past weekend, officiating at the provincial championships, and it was really nice to see the presentation of the trophy to so many of the Blazers team. And Jamie, I know, was quite proud after that. The last game of the tournament where those young men won the gold medal. So again, congratulations. I've been in town business. I chaired a committee of adjustment meeting on June 24th. I attended the Midland Parade and participated in the Midland Parade. And then I was down at the museum with the Canada Day celebrations and did remark to Councillor Leroux about the crowd and how amazing it was to see, because as similar to Councillor Leroux, I've been attending for many, many years, and it was quite a crowd, and it was a beautiful day after kind of a so-so Saturday and Sunday. So that's a kind of a quick summary of my activities. Thank you, Worship.
Thank you, Councillor Vadabunker. Deputy Mayor LaRose.
Thank you, Your Worship. Mine's going to be on the same basic Braille as everybody else, but we did have one different one. I had the pleasure of representing the town in the Tay Township Canada Day festivities. Our mayor couldn't be there, and we had a nice parade. It was very well attended. We were riding in an old fire truck. Went up, they had a nice beverage tent and food. Their hospitality was only second to our very own museum where we ended up. So on the Monday, on Canada Day itself, I had the pleasure, as Councillor Waters said, of him and I doing the parade in there with Bill's shiny new truck. So he got to go show it off to all the people in Midland. So that was fun. And then, as most of council, I think everybody we've seen there, we were able to go down to our museum where the festivities were second to none. It's great to see such a big event, such a wonderful event, a very well attended event. But as Councillor LaRue said, it couldn't be done without our staff and the great many volunteers that go down there and make that happen. So very fulfilling Canada Day weekend, Your Worship.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I want to thank all members of council that helped out. I was away at 2 hockey tournaments last 2 weekends, so thank you for the grad ceremonies. Thank you for Canada Day. I appreciate everyone's help in supporting that. I did participate at the Ships Company launch for this year for the HMS Badger and Lynx at our town dock, so it was good to be part of that. Something of interest for everyone. We know we've been talking about non-resident fees, specifically around the recreation centers over the last while. Council a little while ago asked that we reach out to our neighbors and have some dialogue about that. So we did. Midland and Tay mayors and CEOs met to have a conversation. I think we had a really good path forward. Unfortunately, Tiny was not able to participate in that meeting. At our next council, you'll see a letter on our CIP about what a path forward looks like. We want to bring our path forward to all of our councils. So there's optimism in the air about what this could look like between our councils. I'll echo your comments, Councillor DeRush, about the Cultural Alliance and the great work that was done with the National Indigenous Peoples Day and the flag raising. And tremendous amount of work was done by the Cultural Alliance. So thank you to staff and thank you to the Cultural Alliance for making that a success. It was wonderful. I also participated with all of our neighbors at the 21st annual traditional powwow at St. Marie grounds. It was great that we were all able to participate and be in the grand entry. Again, thanks, Deputy Mayor, for the Tay Township and Midland Canada Day. And I've also had the pleasure of participating in several meetings over the last month with Burkeville, and we'll talk more about that tonight. So I want to thank them for that participation. And finally, I think something that we can't say enough and enough recognition celebration about. I was fortunate enough to participate in the Weber Foundation event a couple weeks ago. What a tremendous opportunity where a generous soul is contributing just north of $22 million to local not-for-profit and charities in our region. And just to see the impact that has on so many people. And we had the opportunity to see that impact over years. And it's been north of $52 million over the last 25 years that one person, one donor, one family has been able to give to multiple not-for-profits in this region. The event of a couple weeks ago at the Midland Culture Center, the Deputy Premier was there, MPP Dunlop was there, and it was known that it was the largest single donor donation in Central Ontario's history. Pretty impactful. And just again, to see how much impact that had on so many organizations is just marvelous. So I can't say enough thanks. I think it was an honor to be there. And I think it's just tremendous to see that work being done. So I think the work the not-for-profits are doing to support our community is wonderful. The volunteerism is wonderful, but the generosity with the Weber Foundation and Mr. Weber was tremendous. All right, let's move on, Council. Next is number 8, it's our public meeting. We have a public meeting this evening regarding ZA 7/2024-40 Edward Street. So this is a public meeting tonight under Section 34 of the Planning Act to consider a zoning bylaw amendment, file number ZA 7-2024, to add a holding H symbol to the property. The holding symbol can be lifted upon approval of a development application. This is to Council. Council, this is a public meeting is to provide an opportunity for the public to make comments. The purpose of this public meeting is not to engage in debate regarding the merits of the application, nor is it intended to be a question and answer session. There is an opportunity later in the meeting to ask questions on the application after the public meeting has concluded. Andrew, I'm going to ask if you can kindly introduce this application, if you can confirm any notification made, and if you can note any correspondence received and outline the proposal for us, please.
Thank you very much, Your Worship, members of council and the public. This is an application under the Planning Act to add a holding H symbol to the property at 40 Edward Street. I can confirm that notice of tonight's public meeting was given on June 18th and that we have received correspondence that's part of your agenda package that was distributed last Friday. Correspondence from the agencies, the Severn Sound and Bridge Gas, Canada Post and the like, with no comments or concerns on the proposal, as well as a comment from the public asking to make some comments tonight, so we may hear from them. The application to apply the holding H symbol is a requirement through the Committee of Adjustment. Earlier this year, the committee did approve provisionally or conditionally consent application to sever from the property the existing house and to create a servicing easement across that property into the retained lands. The retained lands as part of that application are vacant, and there's currently 2 points of access to the property. One, which would be the terminus of Wright Court, and another one is a town-owned property from Copeland Street that would provide access to the site. So the holding symbol is being imposed so that orderly and proper development of that retained land can occur. And so once an application for a plan of subdivision or site plan application is approved, the holding H symbol can be lifted and they can obtain building permits. So this is a slightly different than the normal holding symbol process we see. We normally take them off. This is one to add the holding symbol, and what it will protect is to ensure that there is development that happens on the property that is carefully considered and is subject to public consultation. I'd be happy to answer any questions that council would have.
Thank you, Andrew. Andrew, just to confirm, is the agent here this evening or want to make a presentation?
I do not see him in the audience tonight, no.
Okay. I'm going to ask then if anyone in the audience wishes to make any comments on the application based on land use planning issues relevant to the application. If you do, I'd ask you to come to the podium. Please state your name and address for the record, please. Sarah, I'm going to ask if anyone online wishes to participate in this portion of the public meeting.
Thank you. We do not have anybody online.
Okay, I'm going to ask the public. I'm just going to invite anyone on the podium. So you're welcome to the podium, Sarah. I'll just ask you to state your name and address for the record, please. Thank you.
My name's Ted Waters. We live at 35 Ann Street, which backs onto the proposed property. We ourselves don't have a particular problem with developing that land. Right now, it's just a treed forest. The only thing we'd like the council to take into consideration that not be like 3-story townhouses put in there backing onto our property. So it would tower over our houses. So as long as they're reasonable, nice property homes, I don't really have a problem with it. It's just if they tend to be the skinny, tall townhouses, they'd be too tall for the area. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Your comments have been added to the record, sir. And I'll ask again if anyone in the audience wishes to make comments on the application based on land use planning issues relevant to the application. Okay, seeing none, I'm going to thank everyone for your attendance and participation in this portion of the public meeting. I'm going to close the public meeting, and later on in the evening, there'll be a motion that council will address at that time. Okay, moving on to our next item. And I'm just going to turn to Madam Clerk for a second. Madam Clerk, 9A, my understanding this is a Planning Act application and we'll follow the same process.
Thank you, Your Worship. I was just advised by the Treasurer, Director of Finance, that the 2024 Development Charge Study is officially a public meeting. So we would like to make sure we offer the public the same opportunity to hear, ask questions, and provide comments.
Okay, thank you very much. Who's going to introduce this? Is it Carrie? Are you going to introduce the development study by Hempson Consulting?
Yes, through you, Your Worship. Stefan from Hempson Consulting is online and going to be presenting the draft development charges background study and the draft proposed bylaw.
Thank you very much. The floor is yours, sir, for the 2024 development charges study presentation. Welcome.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor and members of council. And I'm just going to share my screen, if I may. And hopefully, Mr. Mayor, you can see that.
We can, and we can hear you fine. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. My name is Stefan Shetranovich. I am an associate partner in Hempson Consulting, and Hempson has been retained, as council is aware, to prepare a development charges background study for the town. And as the clerk just mentioned, this is a statutory public meeting that's required under Section 12 of the Development Charges Act prior to council considering and passing a new development charge bylaw. Advertising, the requisite advertising for this public meeting has been undertaken. A background study summarizing the development charge calculations was made publicly available on the town's website on June the 14th. And a draft version of a proposed development charge bylaw was also made publicly available on June the 26th. My presentation tonight, Mr. Mayor, will be very similar to a presentation I made to council on May the 8th, where I set out the draft calculated rates and compared them to rates that were in other municipalities. So it's, as I say, very similar. There's been some slight adjustments to the rates as they were finalized in the background study. But otherwise, we'll be talking briefly about the legislation that underpins what council has to do. The background study details themselves, the final rates that have been calculated, and the next steps that are required before a bylaw is passed. But for members of the public who are in attendance for this public meeting, development charges are paid by developers to pay for growth-related capital costs. The sort of driving principle behind them is that growth should pay for itself, so that the financial burden of expanding infrastructure and facilities to allow the town to maintain its service levels in the face of a growing community is not borne by the existing residents. It's paid for through the charges. Tonight, we'll be talking about the development charges that are imposed by the town of Penetanguishing for the services it provides. But there are additional charges that are paid at the counter when someone comes to pull a building permit that are imposed by the County of Simcoe for the services it provides, and by the school boards as well for land for new schools. So we're only talking this evening about the town development charges. The development charges are imposed under a bylaw, and the maximum life of a bylaw is 10 years after it comes into force. It used to be 5 years. So the current bylaw, which expires at the beginning of September, was actually passed in 2019. The new bylaw that council passes will have a maximum 10-year lifespan. Before you pass a bylaw, the town has to undertake a background study, and that's what I was referring to earlier. That's been done. That's posted on the website, and you have to hold at least one public meeting, and that's what we are undertaking this evening. After the bylaw is passed, there's a 40-day period where anyone can appeal the rates themselves, as well as any policy provisions in the bylaw, and those appeals are adjudicated at the Ontario Land Tribunal. The development charge legislation has changed quite significantly in recent years, certainly since the 2019 bylaw was passed. A lot of this is part of the government's priority to address housing affordability and to build more homes in Ontario. And so there's been a number of amendments to the Development Charges Act in particular that have been passed in recent years. And really the overall intent of the development charge changes is to reduce the charges in order to reduce housing construction costs. The most significant piece of legislation was Bill 23, which came into force at the end of 2022, which provided a range of exemptions for very specific types of development from the payment of development charges, and those are listed at the top of the slide here on the left. So affordable and attainable housing as defined by the province, additional units where they're created in existing rental housing, the intensification of residential units on existing residential lots, nonprofit housing, and housing that is incorporated into inclusionary zoning. All of these are now exempt from the payment of development charges. There are development charge discounts that are now in force that would discount payments for purpose-built rental developments based on the number of bedrooms, with higher discounted rates for larger units with more bedrooms. And then finally, there was a mandatory phase-in of new rates that was required of municipalities over a 5-year period. And you can see that how the phase-in was to work on the bottom right-hand side of the screen here. But just a few weeks ago, another bill was introduced and came into force, the Cutting Red Tape to Build More Homes Act, which was passed on June the 6th. So after I last presented to council, that actually reverses some of the Bill 23 changes. So the mandatory 5-year phase-in of development charges is no longer in force. And what that means for council is that you can impose the fully calculated rate in the background study on day one of the bylaw if you wish to. The other thing that this new bill has done is it's reintroduced the ability of the town to impose a charge for growth-related studies. We did sort of anticipate this change, so the background study does include a charge for growth-related studies. And there are one or two other minor amendments to the way DCs are frozen and the way notice of public meetings is now allowed to be done digitally in cases where there's no local newspaper locally. So that will help a number of communities in certainly Northern Simcoe County, but you still have a local newspaper, so you will still have to use it where applicable. The other change is that the affordable housing exemption that was introduced through Bill 23 is now in force as of a few weeks ago. The attainable housing exemption is still up in the air. We still don't know what the province means by attainable housing, so that change is still to come. But right now, housing that meets the affordability criteria will be exempt from the payment of the charges. I took council through the study process, so I won't sort of go through this in too much detail right now, but suffice to say, we have followed the prescribed approach in the Development Charges Act for calculating the rates. We've done a development forecast. We've done a growth-related capital program that sets out the infrastructure needs for the anticipated growth. We've made deductions to the costs of that infrastructure to account for external grant funding, portions of costs that benefit existing residents, portions of costs that can be paid for from existing development charge reserve funds, and portions of costs that will benefit development beyond the time frame that we are looking for. Ultimately, we've calculated rates that would be imposed on residential development as a charge per unit, with a higher charge for the larger unit types, and as a flat charge on non-residential development on a floor area basis, new floor area basis. This slide just sets out the development forecast on which the charges are based. And you can see there's a bit of a historic profile of growth in Penetanguishene, quite rapid through the sort of 90s and early part of this century. Actual population decline between the census period of 2006 to 2016. But since then, very rapid growth again. And that is anticipated to continue right the way until 2051. That is in keeping with the expectations that are set out in the Simcoe County official plan, which has been adopted by County Council. The planning periods that we are using for the development charge calculations are shown in the gold bars. So for the general services, that would be your library, parks and recreation, the studies, and the fire. We're using a 10-year planning horizon from 2024 to 2033, and then a slightly longer planning horizon for the engineering services of water, wastewater, roads, and stormwater. These planning periods are both consistent with your capital forecast documents and with the previous background study that was undertaken in 2019. But as I say, it's quite robust growth that is being planned for, about 80 new homes per year over the next 10 or 15 years. 55 jobs per year over the same period. And that translates into roughly about 2,000 square meters of additional non-residential gross floor area per year. You can find more details, by the way, about the development forecast in Appendix A of the background study. This table summarizes the cost inputs to the development charge calculations. So just working along the bottom row here, where we've examined projects that amount to about $182 million of infrastructure and facilities to 2036. Mostly in the engineered services of roads, water, and sewer, but note that there's a significant cost in the parks and recreation service, and about $45 million of that is related to a provision for a multi-use recreation center. Of the $182 million, about $15.5 million can be funded from external grants or other subsidies. A significant component, about $166 million, is related to providing benefits to your existing residents and will not be included in the development charge. Just under $2 million can be funded from your existing development charge reserve funds. And then skipping to the last column on the right, a significant portion of the infrastructure will be oversized and will benefit residents beyond the planning horizon that we're looking at in 2033 and 2036. So the column that is highlighted here, what's called in-period costs, just over $24 million. Those are the costs that have been brought forward to the development charge calculation. These are the rates on screen that appear in the background study. So it's just over $25,000 for a single or semi-detached unit. And as I say, there are lower charges for the smaller unit types. And if you look at the pie chart on the left, you can see that about 50% of the residential charge is for the engineered services, water, sewer, storm, and roads. And then a significant component of the overall charge is for that parks and recreation service, which again is being driven by that one project, the multi-use recreation center. This table just compares the charge that is currently in place under the current bylaw. At the bottom here, you can see it's about just over $22,000 for a single detached unit. So the new charge of just over $25,000 for a single detached unit represents a 15% increase on the current charge, $3,300. There are certainly shifts within each service. So some services have seen increases, notably the Parks and Recreation and the sewer. And we have introduced a stormwater charge for the first time where one doesn't currently exist. But there are some reductions in some of the services as well, notably library and fire, where we have both existing reserve funds on hand to pay for the new infrastructure, but also a less costly capital program than we had in 2019. So there's no expansion of any fire stations or library buildings contemplated in this background study. This chart compares the current charges that are in place in Penetanguishing with the fully calculated rates. Again, these are the maximum rates council could impose, but of course you're under no obligation to do so. But if you did, you would still be at the lower end of the scale of development charges, residential development charges that are in place in Simcoe County. This table, by the way, is showing you the total charge that's in force. The green portion of the bar here represents the county charge, and the gold represents the lower tier charge. And the lower tier charges in Simcoe will include water and sewer, which is the really big cost drivers. So they will comprise the vast majority of the overall charge. But even in the context of the slower growing municipalities in the northern part of the county, the residential charges, even the newly calculated residential charges, would put Penetanguishing near the lower end of the range. On the non-residential side of the ledger, the fully calculated rate is just under $143 a square meter of new floor area. Almost all of the charge related to the engineered services, so about 93% of the total. And that would represent, if implemented, a 20% higher charge than what's currently in place. With most of the increases being on the engineering side, engineering services side of things, particularly roads, stormwater, and sewer. And this does the same thing, compares the non-residential charge that is currently in force in Penetanguishing of $177 a square meter. The calculated charge about 20% higher, but no change to your relative position compared to the other municipalities. Note also that in Penetanguishing, you exempt industrial development from payment of the DC. So this would only apply to commercial and institutional development in Penetanguishing. There would be other places in Simcoe County where they impose the charge on all non-res, including the industrial. As I mentioned earlier, a draft version of the bylaw has been drafted and posted on the website in advance of the public meeting as well. This updated bylaw has been amended to conform to the new legislative requirements, including Bill 23 and Bill 185. And that includes updated definitions at the front part of the bylaw. There's been no change to the exemptions that the town provides to the types of development that are listed here. So boards of education, municipal buildings are exempt. You provide an exemption where somebody demolishes a house and rebuilds it within 5 years. You provide an exemption from the payment of development charges in those redevelopment scenarios. As I said earlier, you exempt all industrial uses from payment of DCs, as well as all non-residential uses on lands that are zoned commercial general in the town. Hospitals, colleges, universities, agricultural uses, including farms and temporary buildings, are also exempt under the town bylaw. And carrying over from the current bylaw, we've also included a provision that would allow the rates to be indexed every year to keep pace with inflation. So just to conclude, Mr. Mayor, we're at the point here now where we have the statutory public meeting, the fourth row from the bottom here. Really, the next steps are to hear members of the public this evening, of course, and answer questions as needed. Respond to any written submissions that are received over the coming weeks from external stakeholders, but ultimately to bring forward to council a bylaw for your consideration and passage on August the 14th, which would be a few weeks before the current bylaw expires on September the 2nd. And the appeal period, as I said earlier, will be for a 40-day period after the bylaw is passed. So that concludes my presentation, Mr. Mayor. I'm happy to answer questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your presentation. I'm going to ask if anyone in the audience wishes to make comments on the application regarding our draft development charges bylaw. So I'll have you come to the podium, state your name and address for the record, please. Sarah, is there anyone online that wishes to comment on this application?
We do not have anybody online. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'll ask one more time if anyone in the audience wishes to make comments on regarding our draft development charges bylaw. If so, I'll have you come to the podium and state your name and address for the record, please. Seeing none, Stefan, thank you so much for the presentation. Any concluding comments from you?
None. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much. So I thank everyone for participation in this public meeting. This will be discussed council later on this evening in our committee of the whole. And again, it'll be coming forward next month for council's consideration for adoption of the bylaw. All right, moving on. 9B is a presentation from Don Chapman regarding the annual Terry Fox Run. Don, welcome. Thank you for being here tonight. The podium is yours, sir.
I've been here a few times. Same story. I change it a little bit every year to try and grab your attention and grab your wallets and grab your hearts and do something great for Penetang and beyond and beyond and beyond. I want to talk about Terry Fox, our program. I'll talk a little bit above our level, what's going on more at a global level without getting into gory details. I'll have a quick look back at where have we been, what have we accomplished, and then we'll talk about where we're going this year with your support. You see the big no matter what, that's the theme this year at the global level for the Terry Fox Foundation. And it was just represents kind of, what do you think of when you think of Terry? It's a guy who wouldn't stop. Anything, nothing could get in his way. He kept going and going. So I think it's a great little phrase that describes that guy's attitude, his behavior, and a role model kind of for all of us. If you see a little red squiggle through there, through the no matter what do you think that stands for? What's it represent? It is a map. Yeah, it's Terry's route as far as he got. That's what it's outlining. Okay, I will ask you to keep me going. It's Sarah, right? Okay, Sarah, I'm Don. Talk for a minute about the need for raising money and attacking this thing called cancer, this horrible thing called cancer. A lot of us in our lives, we are going to contract it or we're going to know somebody who is affected by it. Most people say they've been touched by cancer. I consider it kicked. I think kicked is a better word than touched by. It's not soft at all. I lost a son through cancer. I've been there. I felt it. It hurts. It's bad. It is not a touch. interesting fact I read recently was the number of donors in the last 30 years, the number of donors to cancer related charities has actually gone down, but the amount of their donation per person has gone up. So a few people are digging a little bit deeper, and that's what's kept our numbers afloat. But frankly, what we need to do is engage more and more and more people. I think we should share this burden a little more broadly and not count on a few to carry it for us. And that's the way this thing will go on and live in, after we're all gone, the Terry Fox Foundation will carry on because we've brought lots of people on board. So that's my personal thought, is just let's share this broadly across a wide spectrum of people. There's some great stuff happening with technology. I won't try and pretend that I know how to pitch it effectively to you. They've tricked me into believing there's some great stuff going on with technology, and it's close to the edge and it's extremely replicable. Once you crack the code, you can deploy it very broadly, very quickly. So I think that gives me hope. The other notion here is called precision medicine. You've probably heard that term before. It generally says they're going to attack things at a gene level, like we're going to go at a micro level here. No big shotgun kind of approaches. This is rifle shooting, getting that gene and killing it. And then you can extrapolate that to lots of people very quickly once you find the cure here. So we're watching survival rates and longevity are going up. So the metrics are good. That's not across the board, by the way. There are pockets of really great progress. There are pockets that need a lot of attention, and they are getting attention now. The Terry Fox Foundation, I think a reason to believe in it is it's very well run. It's now raised over $900 million since it began in 1980. Just amazing. And most of the money goes to research. It's a very efficient, low overheads. So about 80% of every dollar raised is ending up with a researcher, not an administrator, not a management consultant, with somebody who knows how to kill cancer. The Terry Fox Foundation has been rated by Innovation Canada the highest ranked for efficiency organization of all of its competitors. And they've done that 2 years in a row now, which apparently has never been done before. There's never been a 2-year winner. So it's on a great track here. We also have a rule that we can't spend any money. So we have no budget. Our budget is zero. Whatever I want to do to try and get you to spend more money with the foundation, we have to coax it out. And we have to get it out by not spending any money. So everything we do, if we give you a hot dog, if we give you a band with live music, whatever you want, it's all got to be just absorbed by great people who just say, I'm going to fund that. And we get all of the money. And that's the way we want to keep it. We want to have no budget. We think that's what differentiates us. And there's a whole bunch of benefits down in that last paragraph that just say good things happen. If you engage your staff, your employees, your club, whatever organization you're part of, if you engage that club, that unit in a social cause like cancer, good things are going to happen to your bottom line. Whatever your measurements are, profitability, absenteeism, anything. All of your business measurements will get better if you take that leap and get involved. Go ahead, please, Sarah. Thank you. The little chart in the middle there, this is Tom up on Tom Brady, not Tom Brady. That's Tom up in the top corner there, and he likes to show me the money. The little chart in the middle, the top line is revenue over the years and the number of participants we've had over the years. And what you can see is we just had 3 consecutive years of over $100,000 that we raised by this little event that we're going to have on September the 15th. That's pretty good without spending a cent. We just cumulatively got to $2.6 million. Our area has contributed in the since 1980 when we did our first events here. We are last year, the year that just passed, 11th highest contributors in Ontario. And that is amazing. That's out of over about 200 runs in Ontario. We're 11th. Makes me feel good. I hope it makes you feel good. That's something to be really proud of. And we should all be bragging about it and then doing a little bit more. The participant level went right down to basically zero. We couldn't have an event for 2 years during COVID times. We still did a bunch of online stuff, but we couldn't get any crowd together. So we basically got zero. It is starting to bounce back right now. And I'm starting to see it and feel it. And I think we can get up in the 700, 800 range this year. Is not out of sight at all. A lot of other metrics got better good too. Thank you, Sarah. What did we do last year? I won't go through all of this for the sake of time. The one that was two that are unusual, we were in the Canada Day Parade as well, the Midland Canada Day Parade. And we were in about 20th position in the starting lineup of how we were supposed to be, but we had a problem. Our driver of our antique police cruiser wasn't there on time. And they had to start jockeying things around, jockeying position, so they could have police at the front and police at the back, OPP. When they couldn't do that, what they did was take our replica car and van that we had, and we got pushed to the front spot in the lineup. So we went from 20th to first by total accident, but that was just a little sideline there. The bottom one there, we did this thing of, we went out, searched out people who had run in the very first run here we had locally in 1983. And I whittled it down, people we could reach and were still alive and kicking and wanted to do stuff. We found 6 that were in that category. I invited them all to come to our run. We invited them up on the stage. They were thrilled to be there. And then we capped it off with, we had a handwritten letter to each one of them from Terry's brother, Fred. And then we hand delivered them to all those people. And they were really touched by honoring our pioneers. And the Terry Fox headquarters loved it too. So it was winner. Go ahead. Our strengths, I just think, I'm not doing all of these, but we've got a good committee. I couldn't do what we do without about 20 of my best friends doing this with me, and they're doing it, their time, their expense, all of that kind of stuff. But they're great. And they keep it going. Our community is pretty damn hot too. I think when I go around, I do a lot of this, just going around yakking about this, and everybody gives me a nice warm reception. And I hope you do too. We get unsolicited offers of help. So last year, for example, I went to a intermediate level manager to do with Tim Hortons, and they were giving us coffee and donuts for our volunteers for free. And I said, what do you think? Couldn't we do a little bit more than that? And they immediately volunteered and said, why don't we give it to everybody in the park? Free. So it was totally unsolicited by me. They just offered it. Fantastic. We've got a track record of growth, and we got some really nice features in our park in Perkins Field there. It's not ideal for everything in the world, but for what we're trying to do, it's an excellent facility, and we get excellent support. And Benita's been such a big part of that for the years I've been involved. I thank you so much. Okay, we'll go ahead. What we're at this year, we're going to have a warm up where we make you stretch and groan and all that kind of stuff, and you'll have fun doing it. There's a free lunch. Everything's free. There's free coffee, as I mentioned, live music, shirt sales. This beautiful shirt can be yours too for the low price of $25. And think of what you're doing with that $25. There's a kid zone. There'll be animals, art, model train, all kinds of stuff to keep kids amused while people who want to go and hurt themselves go run around a circle. And we're doing an online auction again this year. And we got several fundraisers preceding the actual event on September 15th. I won't bore you with this. The route is up and down Bomb Beach Road. We go up one side and then we try and get back down the other side. And coming back is much easier than going out because uphill, downhill, that sequence. It's a great course. You can high five your neighbors. They're going one way, you're going the other. Have some fun with it. We close the whole road, so it is an interruption to some residents and businesses, and we're trying our best to accommodate them however we can, because they're giving up something so we can run this great event. What can you do? You can do a whole lot of things. You could give us stuff that we can add to our auction. You could buy stuff from our auction. You could buy a lovely shirt. You could form a team and go do a car wash for Terry, go do a bake sale for Terry, go do a book sale for Terry. It doesn't matter. Your money's all the same to me. I don't care what you did to earn it, as long as it's not criminal, of course. Lots of stuff you can do. I would say do something simple, but do something. It's get involved and contribute to this. It will make a difference. It will make a difference to how you feel as well. Saving lives is a great feeling. Great feeling. The main thing you can do for me, come on out to the park on September 15th. Be at 9:30 check-in, 10 o'clock. You can ride, walk, run, whatever you want to do. Go up that monster and come down that monster. Just be part of it, and it'll grow our community and help us get to a world without cancer. And I will be quiet at this stage. Thank you very much.
Don, thank you so much for your presentation tonight. You know, we started tonight with Councillor Roux and Councillor Marshaw shouting out to volunteers. That's what makes our community so special, is the volunteers. And I think you deserve a huge shout out and kudos as well for your countless hours, passion, and drive that you've given towards the foundation. Thank you on behalf of our community and our council for all you do. It's tremendous. You come every year with the same passion and drive, and thank you so much. And you're right, you have so much to be proud of. 11 out of the 200 centers across Ontario. That's no small feat. So thank you so much. Council, any comments or questions for our presenter? Thank you so much. Okay, Council, we're going to move on to number 10, our adoption minutes not already confirmed. I have a motion that the following minutes of council meetings be confirmed and adopted as circulated. Special council for June the 12th, 2024, and council for June 12th, 2024. I'm going to look for a mover. Deputy Mayor LaRose, seconded by Councillor DeRush. Comments or questions? Seeing none, we'll call for the vote. All in favor? And opposed? That is carried. Number 11 is our consent agenda. We have nothing on our consent agenda. 12, matters for consideration. 12A, just for the record, Councillor Waters declared a conflict of interest on this earlier, so Councillor Waters will refrain from debating and voting on this item. This is regarding a background of the public meeting we had earlier regarding ZA 7-2024 regarding 40 Edward Street, file number PL 2024-33. The motion reads that the public meeting report PL 2024-33 for the zoning bylaw amendment file number ZA 7-2024 concerning 40 Edward Street be received, and that any matters identified in the report PL 2024-33 and at the public meeting be addressed in the report to the committee of the whole. I'm going to look for a mover. Councillor Roux, second by Councillor Vadabonker. Comments and questions? Seeing none, I'm going to call for the vote. All in favor? And opposed? That is carried. And Madam Clerk, just for the record, Councillor Waters did not participate in that discussion or vote. 12B is regarding the CIP funding request PL 2024-38. The motion reads that the existing community improvement plan budget of $40,000 be allocated to fund downtown community improvement plan applications, and that $30,000 be transferred from the community development reserve and allocated to fund affordable and sustainable housing community improvement plan applications, and that an intake period of July the 1st, 2024 to August the 2nd, 2024 be approved for applications to the Affordable and Sustainable Housing Community Improvement Plan. And finally, that the Director of Planning and Community Development be authorized to extend the 2024 intake period at their absolute discretion. I'm going to look for a mover. Councillor Vadabonker, seconder. Councillor DeRush, comments and questions? Seeing none, I'm going to call for the vote. All in favor? And opposed? That is carried. 12C is regarding our 2024 to 2034 Community Canada Building Fund 10-year municipal funding agreement. The motion reads that the town enter into a 10-year municipal funding agreement with the Association of Municipalities of Ontario, which governs the transfer and use of federal gas tax funds through the Canada Community Building Fund, and that a bylaw be brought forward for council approval. I'm going to look for a mover. Councillor Roux, seconded by Councillor Marchand. Comments or questions? Seeing none, we're going to call for the vote. All in favor? And opposed? That is carried. 13 is a presentation consideration reports for Committee of the Whole. Just for public's interest, when council adjourns, we move into another meeting called Committee of the Whole. Everything we discussed at Committee of the Whole last month comes forward this month for council to then ratify those decisions, pull them out and have further dialogue. So that's what we're going to do now is we're going to rediscuss what we discussed last month, just for your interest. Okay, council, we're going to look at our transportation. So Councillor Marchand, if you can guide us in the recommendations for transportation and community services section, please.
Happy to do that. So for transportation and environmental services section, we had one consent agenda item, which was the review of the Q1 transportation report. So that's the Midland Penetanguishene transit report. We had two items for consideration. The first one was a policy update on the minimum maintenance standard for roads. And the second was the new allocation policy for Rogers Communication for locates. And we had no new items added for consideration.
Thank you, Councillor Marchand. So I have a motion, the recommendations contained within the Committee of the Whole report related to the Transportation Environmental Services section be approved. Moved by Councillor Marchand, seconded by Councillor Roux. Comments or questions? Seeing none, we'll call for the vote. All in favor? And opposed? And that is carried. Councillor Vadabonker, do you mind the Planning and Development Services section, please?
Thank you, Worship. Section dealt with three consent items, the Committee of Adjustment minutes, the Town Dock Technical Advisory Committee minutes, and the May activity report from Municipal Law Enforcement. Committee is recommending 4 items for consideration. The first is that council receive a notice of complete application and a public meeting for proposed housekeeping amendments for the new zoning bylaw. There are a number of amendments that are required as a result of just the last 18 months of reviewing the new zoning bylaw. The second item was that it's being recommended that council adopt a zoning bylaw amendment for property at 1321 Sandy Bay Road. And that is to allow a larger than normal accessory building and a accessory residential unit on the second floor. Committee considered the results from the public consultation dealing with the ATV and ORV pilot program and is recommending that all-terrain vehicles bylaw, an all-terrain vehicle bylaw be considered, and this is going to be a pilot for a year. The last item was that committee is recommending that council direct staff to finalize the community branding strategy, a request for proposals to deliver a number of reports, and those reports were outlined in the staff report. Committee approved 2 referral items. The first one was to ask staff to conduct a review of 161 Church Street. To look at options for the future use of that property. It's a rather large property on Church Street. And the second item was that staff be asked to review the request from Burkeville Protestant Separate School Board for a property for new elementary school. And that concludes the items from Planning and Development Services section.
Thank you, Councillor Vadabunker. I have a motion that the recommendations contained within the Committee of the Whole report relating to the Planning and Development Services section be approved. It's moved by Councillor Vadabunker, seconded by Councillor LaRue. Comments or questions, Council? Seeing none, we'll call for the vote. All in favor? And opposed? That is carried. Councillor Waters, if you can guide us through the Recreation Community Services section, please.
Thank you. Last month, the Recreation and Community Services suggested that we had 3 new consent agenda items. They were a memo from the director regarding electrical and plumbing service tender, a memo from the director regarding funding program update, and a recreation master plan. And third item was a Museum and Heritage Advisory Committee meeting minutes. I always have trouble with that one. And the fourth was the wharf structural condition repair report. In addition, there was 2 matters for consideration: the arena concession stand agreement and accessible beaches. And 1 additional referral item was added for skateboard park review. That's it.
Thank you, Councillor Waters. I have a motion that recommendations contained within the Committee of the Whole report related to Recreation Community Services section be approved. It's moved by Councillor Waters, seconded by Deputy Mayor LaRose. Further comments or questions? Seeing none, we'll call for the vote. All in favor? And opposed? That is carried. Councillor Drush, if you can guide us in Finance and Corporate Services section, please.
Certainly, thank you. Finance and Corporate Services had 3 consent agenda items. The first was a memo from the Director of Human Resources regarding the payroll software change and implementation. The second was a second update from the CAO regarding the municipal insurance pool implementation plan. And the third was a non-resident fee review update. 2 matters were brought forward for consideration. The first was regarding a grant writer position. It was recommended that grant research application reporting remain status quo. The second matter was the 2025 budget guidelines. It was recommended that the 2025 budget guidelines be approved as presented, and that the first draft of the town's budget be presented with no greater than a 3% tax impact. There were no changes made to the referral items. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Drush. We have a motion that the recommendations contained within the Committee of the Whole report related to Finance and Corporate Services section be approved. It's moved by Councillor Drush, seconded by Deputy Mayor LaRose. Further comments or questions? Seeing none, we'll call for the vote. All in favor? And opposed? That is carried. Council, moving on. Number 14 is presentation consideration report regarding special committees. We have none. 15 is motions of which notice has been previously given. We have none. 16 is notices of motion. Do any members of council wish to present a notice of motion? Seeing none. 17 is consideration of bylaws. Before I read the bylaws, any members wish to pull a bylaw for further comment? Hearing none. All right, that the Council of the Town of Penetanguishene introduce the following bylaws. Bylaw 2024-28 being a bylaw to amend zoning bylaw 2022-17 as amended of the Corporation of the Town of Penetanguishene. Bylaw 2024-29, a bylaw to permit all-terrain multi-purpose off-highway utility and recreational off-highway vehicles on municipal roads from September the 1st, 2024 to September the 30th, 2025. Bylaw 2024-30, being a bylaw to authorize the entering into and the execution of a municipal funding agreement with the Association of Municipalities of Ontario for the transfer of federal gas tax revenues, and that the bylaws be read a first time, deemed to be read a second, and third time and carried. I'm going to look for a mover. Councillor Vadabunker, second by Councillor Marchand. Further comments or questions? Seeing none, we'll call for the vote. All in favor? And opposed? And that is carried. For members of the public, the Mayor and Deputy Mayor sit on County Council. Every month we like to report back to you about what's happening at County Council. I'm going to ask Deputy Mayor to outline that for us. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Your Worship. Down at the county, I had indicated to council before last month that we were working on our garbage haulage. So just happy to announce that we have ratified a 20-year hauling agreement. So our garbage leaving the county should be looked after for a fair bit of time. The following week at county, we had a special meeting, just one item, and it was about the governance of county council. So what's happening is we've set up a committee that's going to look at the governance on how all 16 municipalities participate down at the county. So that's something that we can look forward to in the near future. And the last item I have, Your Worship, is some good news. The county has finished a renovation up at Georgian Village of our commercial space. We had a group of doctors that were requiring more space. So we have finished the renovations, and they will be adding 3 additional doctors to their clinic up there. So it should be opening any day now. They said about the middle of the month. So that's some very good news for our community.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Any members of council, any comments or questions for the Deputy Mayor? And for members of the public's interest, if you go to our agenda, you'll see links to there, thanks to Madam Clerk, where the county council highlights are there. So feel free to browse to our website to the agenda to find those. Moving on to announcements and inquiries. Any members of council have any announcements or inquiries? Councillor Drush.
Thank you. I have the one announcement that I'd like to share with the community. And so the town recently put out a call for members of the public to participate to a Winterama Advisory Committee. This committee will be made up of 8 members of the public, hopefully, and 1 council member, and will provide support and advice to council and recreation and community services staff on the sustainability and growth of Winterama. Members will be responsible for volunteering in the planning of the event while also volunteering their time over the Winterama weekend. This opportunity will close at the end of the month. I'm not sure of the date, but I do know it's approaching. So if it piques your interest, please check out the website or you can call for more details. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Rush. Any other members, any announcements or inquiries? So I have 2 comments to make tonight. I make mistakes, and tonight I made the public announcement. Thank you, Sarah. We moved that like 3rd item instead of the 1st. That was on me. We also do where members get to comment on what they've done. I bypassed our CEO, and usually makes a little note to me about that. Last time I failed to call him, I had to buy him lunch. So I'm calling it out. I forgot. CEO Lees, that's on me. Bad on me. So announcements and inquiries and statement on behalf of administration. More time to you. I apologize, and I owe you lunch.
Thank you, Your Worship. I think Councillor Marchand and I would love to take you up on that lunch offer. I was actually holding that for that special occasion where I could utilize that, but I'm glad that you were reminded. Your Worship, I have 2 things I wanted to update council on. The first is there was lots of discussion from members of council about Canada Day and the great turnout and attendance by the public. I was advised by our staff that this is the first year, potentially ever, that we had such a great turnout by council. I think all 7 members of council attended, and I know that there were a number of staff and employees that attended as well, in most cases on their own time. So kudos to not only the community who rallied behind the event, but staff that put the event on and spent countless hours, putting the event on. So great work by all. The second piece I wanted to update council on just was we did host on June 19th our annual Joint Health and Safety Committee inspections. So we do an inspection blitz once a year. Certainly inspections occur throughout the year at various intervals, but this is one opportunity where our entire committee goes out and visits all facilities. So certainly for the benefit of the community, but also for the benefit of our staff from a health and safety perspective. Very successful, facilitated by our Human Resources and Health and Safety Department. And we had 9 employees that really banded together and made that happen on the 19th of June. So kudos to them. And Your Worship, that's it. And I've made a note in my pocket for future. Thank you.
I did get the last one. I'll get the next one. I apologize again. I think before we move on, I just want to extend sincere best wishes and congratulations to Benita on her retirement from Tiny Township at the end of the month, this month. So congratulations for your work and what you've contributed to North Simcoe. So thank you so much. Councillor, moving on to our confirmation bylaw. It reads that the confirmation bylaw 2024-31 be signed and sealed by the mayor and clerk. Moved by Councillor Marshall, seconded by Councillor Roux. Call for the vote. All in favor? And opposed? That is carried. And a motion to adjourn at 8:29, moved by Councillor Vadabon-Kerr, seconded by Councillor Marshall. Call for the vote. All in favor? And opposed? That is carried. We'll take a 10-minute recess. We'll be All right, council, we're going to convene our committee of the whole meeting for Wednesday, July the 10th, 2024 at 8:39 p.m. Thank you again for everyone for attending and participating in our committee of the whole meeting this evening. Number 2 is our approval of the agenda. I have a motion that the committee of the whole agenda for July the 10th, 2024 be approved as presented. I'll look for a mover, Councillor Vadabunker, seconded by Councillor Leroux. Comments or questions? Call for the vote. All in favor? And opposed? That's carried. Number 3 is our declaration of pecuniary interest. Any members have a declaration of pecuniary interest tonight? Seeing none, if you're facing one at a time, please let us know. Number 4 is presentations and delegations. We have 2 this evening. I'll go to the podium. So we discuss often about how special our community is. Again, earlier tonight, Councillor Roux talked about Canada Day festivities and how wonderful it was. And it's the friends of the museum that made that wonderful. And Councillor Marchand talked about that with our ball hockey group. This community is founded on volunteer and volunteerism. And I think that's what makes it so special is everybody that contributes and make our community what it is. Tonight, I'd like to recognize Mr. Phil DeBrune on behalf of our council and our community. Phil, it's been a tremendous honor to work with you. Phil's given probably 1,000 hours or more to this community in the past year. The government's realigned how police service boards are conducted in the province, and the Penetanguishene Police Service Board is no longer, and we're now part of a larger detachment board which comprises of Midland, Penetanguishene, Tiny Township, Tate Township, and Georgian Bay Township. It's a huge feat. It's a huge amount of work that needs to be done, and Phil stepped up and offered his expertise, his knowledge, his support. And Phil, it's been nothing but an honor to work alongside you and you guiding not just our municipality, but our neighbors. And I know our neighbors, extend tremendous appreciation thanks to you. We wouldn't be where we're at without Phil. We just wouldn't, not just our municipality, but North Simcoe. So Phil, I can't say enough thank yous to you. Again, on behalf of our council and all of North Simcoe municipalities, thank you so much. And I could say that all night, but thank you on behalf of our community. I have a little token, if I can have you up to pass this to you. And we appreciate from the bottom of our hearts all you've done. That's okay. I'm here for you. Thank you. Thank you. Phil, again, thank you so much. Earlier this year, Phil actually did a presentation to our council. It was open to members of the public in our other municipalities, and everyone was just floored with the knowledge and expertise. We participated in provincial conferences, and Phil, I got more out of spending time with you for 10 minutes. I did at a conference table for an hour. So again, I can't thank you enough, Phil. We owe you more than what we offered you tonight. Thank you so much. The second acknowledgement I'd like to make tonight, I walk Rotary Trail literally every day. And I think we have a phenomenal park at Champlain here on Wendat Park. And I love our signs. Maybe we'll get someone to bring it up. But we have all kinds of historical signs that talk about our history and what makes our community so special. And I was walking through the park a little while ago, and one day the signs are gone. And then a week later, they started getting painted. And then all of a sudden, there's new signs that showed up. And I talked to staff, and I found out that Mr. Jim Martin volunteered his time graciously to spend copious amounts of time to remove the signs, sand the posts, paint the posts, reinstall signs. And those are used every day. People come to this community. That park is a gem. But I think they were getting weathered and worn. And a volunteer in our community stepped up with passion and drive to make it what it was. It's funny. It's not funny, haha, But apparently, I had all his equipment and stuff in his vehicle, and people are yelling and hooting and hollering at Mr. Martin. So the clerk gave him the mayor's magnet that goes on for parades, and then all of a sudden the hooting and hollering stopped. So, Jim, on behalf of our council, our community, and everyone that uses that park, I can't say thank you enough for what you've done. So again, a small certificate of recognition to you, and the floor is yours. I understand you want to say a few comments.
Yeah, the Rotary Club started about 30 years ago, and this is our third edition of these signs. The first set of signs we put up were vandalized within 3 days, so they had to be replaced. And the second group of signs were there for some time. Unfortunately, we had them on a plywood base that rotted and made a mess of even the stands, so that'll have to be all scraped off the rust and painted. So that's what took a while. And the signs were made by Mike Sillis at North Simcoe Signs in Midland. And Mike has made the three editions of those signs that we've put up, and always gave the Rotary Club a break on the price, which was always good because we're always looking for money and don't have much of it. So I wanted to thank Mike, who of course is not here, but for what he's done for the signs for the Rotary Club. So thanks.
We could do these every night for hours, but thank you, Phil and Jim, for your work. Okay, we're going to move on to our next presentation tonight. 4B is a delegation from the Protestant Separate School Board regarding the acquisition of land. And I believe, Kyle, are you speaking? Okay, the floor is yours.
Good evening. My name is Kyle Graham. I'm a trustee for the Protestant Separate School Board in the town of Penetanguishene and current co-chair of the school board's new build committee. I'd like to thank the council for the opportunity to speak to the request to acquire 4 acres of land at the current 51 Dunlop Street site. On October 11th, 2023, our supervisory officer, Mr. Tim Overholt, made a delegation at the town council meeting endorsing the use of 51 Dunlop Street as a community hub, with the potential of having a new Burkeville school built as part of that hub. At the meeting, a motion to create a working group was established to explore options. I do understand a committee is about to begin its mandate. At the time we presented, we were waiting to hear back from the Ministry of Education on whether our capital priority proposal would be approved. As I'm sure you're aware, May 1st, 2024, the school community was visited by the then Minister of Education, Mr. Stephen Lecce, and local MPP Jill Dunlop to inform us our board was approved in a $17.1 million fund to build the new school. This brings us today to our delegation to the Committee of the Whole. Part of our proposal to the ministry outlined the need for both a new school and a new location due to the limited space available at our current site on Burke Street. With our previous interactions with town council on preliminary discussions of a hub, and with the town looking at creating a committee to examine the possibility, we want to reiterate and state publicly the board's first and preferred option on acquiring land is 51 Dunlop Street. As a result, we sent you a letter on May 22nd, 2024, indicating our interest in opening up discussions on the acquisition of a portion of this land. Our first letter indicated we were interested in a minimum of 5 acres, but have reduced that request to 4 acres based on information received according to regulations of the size of the school that we're building. We understand the proposed use of the majority of 51 Dunlop Street location is for some form of recreational facility, and recognize the plan was originally brought to council, may be a little bit dated and probably going to be revisited to ensure the plan and model fits with the community needs and is financially viable. It's our hope the Protestant Separate School Board and a new school build can be a partner in being able to meet the current needs of your plan. In reviewing your 20-year community-based strategic plan, I want to highlight 3 of the themes and specific objectives of each. 1, healthy community, promoting healthy living, well-being, and an active lifestyle for all ages. One of the objectives of this theme is to encourage healthy living by promoting and enhancing recreational amenities and programs. By partnering with the Protestant Separate School Board and working out a plan for our new school to be built on part of 51 Dunlop Street, the future site of a recreational facility, the entire community could benefit from a shared double or triple gymnasium much sooner than what the town would be able to offer in their plan. This would reduce the need for such a facility on remaining 10 acres, which would open up space for other partners or different types of recreational needs. Other municipalities have worked together with school boards in creating such facilities where one gymnasium is dedicated to the school during the day and a second gymnasium with a separate public access is available to town citizens for programs and activities like pickleball, yoga, drop-ins, just to name a few. The school gymnasium could then be utilized after school hours for the town to further enhance the programs they have to offer residents, and it's definitely one avenue to address the objective of your plan. Second objective is corporate initiatives, exploring and continuing to grow opportunities for the town to partner with organizations, seniors homes, Waypoint, Boys and Girls Clubs, County of Simcoe, school boards, etc., that will enhance the community's offerings. As mentioned in the previous point, there's many opportunities in a new build where both the school, community, and the citizens of the town could benefit through partnering in a hub initiative. The obvious benefit for a school board receiving a new modern facility in a location where new development will be taking place. The benefits for the town and the citizens with the goal of having shared facilities include the ability to access at least one gymnasium through the day, the potential to create a modern library that the school could use during school hours, but could also be used by the community after hours. It's a model that communities have used and could be explored if a partnership is created. The potential to have a daycare attached to the school, allowing young families to have further options and providing care for their children. Financial and space savings for parking facilities. Both a new school and a rec facility will require parking lots to be created. It's an easy means of sharing the required acreage both parties need. Again, we believe that creating such a hub with the school board and potentially other partners would meet a very important objective of this community-based plan. Objective 3, Penetanguishene, a vibrant community with a small town feel. Objective 3 is providing a variety of housing options to meet the needs of future generations. The town of Penetang recently created a list of potential locations that were provided to the County of Simcoe on a 10-year plan on affordable housing. One of those sites was 39 Burke Street, the current location of Burkeville School. This was offered based on the board receiving funding for a new school and having another location on which to build. Our understanding is the County of Simcoe has approved 39 Burke Street as a possible future location for affordable housing. With the approved funding by the Ministry of Education for a new school, the potential for future housing to take place is a definite possibility. A win for the town to be able to provide more affordable housing in town for residents and meet the objective within the current strategic plan. So with all this being said, our ask is one which we know is a huge win for the school community as well as residents of all ages for the town of Penetanguishene. Our fortune of being approved for a new build to be completed by September 2027 does not necessarily coincide with your current timelines. We believe that this is an opportunity for the development and partnership with the town, also helping to develop or build on the plan that would benefit all members of the Penetanguishene community. We know there's a way in which the required need of land for your future facilities can be maintained, if not reduced, by partnering with us on aspects of your new build. We respect this is not an easy decision, but we hope that we've highlighted some of the benefits moving forward with this request. Time's not on our side, and we do not want to see an opportunity such as this pass anyone by. Thank you for your time.
Kyle, thank you so much for your presentation tonight. I'm going to ask council for questions in a moment, but I want to start by just saying congratulations. I know the school board and the chair, Cousins, you've worked on this for a lifetime. But congratulations to start off with. This is a huge benefit to you, to your school community. So congratulations on your work. I'm going to turn to council. Any comments or questions for our presenter this evening? Okay, Councillor Badabunker.
Thank you, Worship, and thank you very much for your presentation. Well done. With respect to the timeline that's outlined, I think it was 2027, if I heard and read correctly. Is there any flexibility with respect to that timeline, or is that locked in?
So we've been in In saying so, our timeline is being told to have a school built by September of 2027. If we had hangups that extend that timeline by a small portion, I'm sure that would be looked at and probably approved, but our goal is to have that school built by September 2027.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other members, comments, or questions? I have one for you tonight, Kyle. I think right now we started together going down a path, and our path was, as you had mentioned a while ago, about let's work collaboratively on what this could look like. And you mentioned that there's a working group about to start. Later in the evening, committee is going to debate this and come up with some ideas and see what we're going to land on. Our staff recommendation tonight is that we continue down this path on collaborating what was in the report as option 1 tonight. Understanding that this consultation framework, we're looking at, it's going to be months, if not years, like 24 months plus to work collectively to get where we need to be. I need to know right now from you, does that meet your needs and requirements, or is that a deal breaker? And I ask that because Councillor Vada-Bancourt brought up, like, is there flexibility in those timelines? I understand and appreciate the school's dream and aspiration of being live and well in September 27, but we want to be a good partner as well and understand what that looks like. Can you just add some clarity for me on that, please?
So it's a tough question to answer because we are working with the ministry and the capital branch. So we are dictated by what they want to see happen from their perspective. So they're telling us they want to see it built by 2027, which does not give us a lot of time to have 24 months of discussion before we try to build. So is it a deal breaker? No, we'd love to continue having discussions that way, but if the timeline is going to be that far, I think we need to look at other options, and we would start to explore if there's other options in town to build or other plans that we can make work for us.
Thank you. Council, final comments, questions? Councillor Vada-Bancourt.
Thank you. With respect to the build, and I had a conversation with one of the officers there the day of the announcement, and we talked about capacity, the board's capacity, the town's capacity to undertake such a project. And the officer, and I can't remember his name, mentioned that the Protestant Separate School Board has been fortunate to rely on the resources of other boards to assist when it comes to major projects. Have you been able to identify, or has a board been suggested to you in terms of a board that you could work with respect to this particular project? And the second part of that question is with respect to that board's experience in working with the municipality on a community hub concept, because they are complex, because they involve more than one partner. And if a board has been through it once or twice or maybe more times, that experience, I think, would be very helpful in this type of exercise. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for your question. Absolutely. Our supervisory officer has been in contact with, through the Ministry of Education, other school boards. I believe he was directed to one. I want to say it's Halton, but I would need to confirm on that. Halton, thank you. Who has done countless builds over the last few years, including hubs. So they were a quick partner that they said they could partner with us. Fine details still being worked out because it is early in that process, but we have been redirected to the Halton District School Board to look at that process and how we would go from ground up all the way through that whole process. Whether it be a hub complex or our own build, we'd be working with them.
Good, Councillor Vada-Bancourt. Okay, thank you very much for your participation tonight, Kyle. I appreciate it. Again, congratulations to you, the board, the community. I think tremendous amount of work's gone into this, and I look forward to seeing what $17.1 million builds Burkeville School in the community. Congratulations. All right, Council, we're going to move on to number 5 is our Council Information Package. We have 2 items in there, our June 19th, 2024 Council Information Package and our July 3rd. Do any members wish to pull any of those items for further comment or discussion? Councillor Marchand.
Thank you. From the June 19th package, could we pull out the internal communications or correspondence, excuse me, from the town of Midland regarding septage?
Do you have a motion on that, Councilor Marshall? You just want to speak to it?
I have a question about the letter that I might not need a motion.
The floor is yours.
So Brian, I'll direct this to you. I know we had asked a specific question in our correspondence with regards to accepting septage. They didn't answer the question as far as I've read it. And I've read that letter a few times. Can you just provide some clarity if there's been further communication or what a follow-up correspondence? And the other piece is it was done jointly by 3 municipalities, but there was a lot of referral that it was just us that had penned that. So just some comments around that.
Brian?
Thank you, through you, Your Worship, to Councillor Marchand. Yes, there was a little bit of confusion over the response to the question. But in my previous correspondence and discussions with my counterpart in Midland, they aren't willing to extend the deadline in terms of our request in the initial email or letter correspondence that we sent to them. So at this point, they're maintaining their position that they're no longer in a position to accept septage or hauled waste outside of Midland. So we are continuing to have conversations and continue to engage with them in terms of options moving forward. So staff from the town of Penetanguishene perspective are still engaging with Midland staff on that issue. And in terms of the joint response, I can confirm that it was issued jointly and it was shared amongst the 3 municipalities as well.
Thanks, Brian. Councilor Marshall, is that good? Any other members, items to pull for further discussion or comment? Councilor Marshall.
I would like to also have pulled the North Simcoe Community Partners communication for GBGH around the MRI announcement. So I would like to pull that to have a motion to have it referred to staff to look at our positioning from a town perspective in terms of that MRI build in the capital if we're contributing to that.
Okay, so we'll pull that separate then, Councilor Marshall, with that motion, and we'll do that one separately. Any other members, anything to pull? So I have one on the July the 3rd, 2024, and it's item 1C, and I'll pull that one, and I'll discuss that in a moment. Any other members, anything to pull? Okay, so we'll vote on the rest of them. We'll go back to you, Councillor Marshall. So it's recommended that the council information package have been given due consideration be received for information, minus the 2 that's been withdrawn. I'm going to look for a mover. Councillor Marshall, seconder. Deputy Mayor LaRose, call for the vote. All in favor? And opposed? That's carried. Councillor Marshall, your motion on the item that you wish to pull.
That the motion be that we pull the correspondence, that it be referred back to the Finance Committee for a report back to council with potential, our position in terms of a capital build for an MRI expansion in our community. I think we should be part of that build. So that is, I'm looking to have a report come back to council with regards to that.
Okay. So we have a mover. Madam Clerk, is that clear?
Yes, thank you, Your Worship.
I'll look for a seconder on Councillor Marchand's motion. I'm looking for a seconder on the motion. Councillor Vadabonker. It's duly moved and seconded. Comments and questions on the motion? Hearing none, we're going to call for the vote. All in favor? And opposed? And I didn't vote when it was moved, though. That fails. Councilor Marshall, you can bring it forward as a referral tonight. Okay. Sorry about that. July 3rd, item 1C. For council, if you had an opportunity to read this, item 1C speaks to this council holding prayer session in council chambers. And, that's been heard before the Supreme Court. I just want to give a little color on this one. And then when we're done, I'm going to ask the CEO for some help on guidance on this. So council, on our inaugural night, I crafted the agenda. That's not staff. They didn't have any responsibility. And what we wanted to create, or what I wanted to create, was an open, welcoming inaugural night for us. We invited youth, we invited elders, we invited Burkeville Choir, we invited a drum circle from our Métis group, we invited our Indigenous communities, and we invited a non-denominational faith leader to participate, to represent our broader community. That's the only time this council has had any form of what this letter speaks to prayer. It asks that this council make a procedure bylaw and have in writing that we don't participate in this. I would argue our procedure bylaw already states that. Nowhere on our procedure bylaw has it got that on our agenda or the like. This was one off from our inaugural night. I think we are inclusive of our community and we're very mindful of that. So I wanted to bring that up so that everyone's aware. I'm going to look to the CEO. Based on what we've discussed here, CEO, would staff be able to craft a response back to the writer of this letter on our municipality's behalf?
Through your worship, most certainly, staff can respond to this letter at the will of council, and ensure that we do have the appropriate mechanisms in place vis-a-vis the procedure bylaw. And if we don't, what's it going to take to ensure we do? But certainly, staff are happy to take that on and respond to the correspondence.
Thanks. And do you need a motion for that, or are we good with where we're at? Okay.
I think we're good, your worship. Thank you.
Okay. Council, I'll apologize for any oversight, but again, it was meant to be an opportunity to be inclusive of our community. But I want to address that tonight. Here's the opportunity to do that. Comments or questions on that item by any member? Okay. So we have the remaining referral items items from the CIP, the one that I pulled and Councillor Marsh. So we're going to have to vote those in. So I'm going to look for a mover. Councillor Marsh, second by Councillor Leroux. Further comments or questions? We'll call for the vote. All in favor? And opposed? And that is carried. We're going to move on to item 6, section A, Transportation Environmental Services section. I'm going to turn the chair to you, Councillor Marshall.
Thank you. So for section A, Transportation and Environmental Services, under consent agendas, we have no items this evening. We have 3 matters for consideration this evening. The first one being awarding pavement marking contract, RFQ 2024-14, RDS 2014-11. It's recommended that the town of Penetanguishene enter into a 2-year contract with the potential for 2 years extension in single-year increments with JDM Lines to supply, deliver, and install pavement markings, and that the clerk and mayor are hereby approved to sign the contract. So you have the report in front of you. This is for the RFQ that was submitted, or excuse me, that was pulled out, was out for tender. We've had 4 responses. 2 organizations came back, and JDM Lines came in at the lowest, and we are looking for your support to move forward with the contract. I'm looking for a mover. Councillor Darash, seconder, Deputy LaRose. Any questions or comments by council? Seeing none, I call for the vote. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Second item we have is the awarding supply, delivery, and placement of asphalt contract RFQ 2024-16, RDS 2024-12. You have a report in front of you. This is with regards to the supply of asphalt. Say that 10 times fast. This is for, we've received 3 submissions for this RFQ. JD Lines was the lowest bid, and the recommendation is to award the contract for 2 years with the potential of an extension in single increments for year over year. I'm looking for a motion to approve. Oh, before question, yes, Councillor Waters, second. Councillor Leroux, any questions or comment from council before I read the motion? Seeing none, the motion reads that the town of Penetanguishene enter into a 2-year contract with the potential for a 2-year extension in single-year increments with JDM Lines to supply, delivery, and carry out of placement of asphalt, and that the clerk and mayor are hereby approved to sign the agreement. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. The third item on our agenda for our section is surplus equipment and vehicle policy, engineering ENG-2024-12. The recommendation is that the revised surplus equipment and vehicle policy, revision date 2024-06-13, be approved as presented, and that this updated policy replace the town's current surplus equipment and vehicle policy adopted date on 2015-05-27. The report outlines the current policy, which was passed by council in 2015. It meets our need. However, there were some recommendations noted on page 26 of the report, 5 items, really some housekeeping items for cleanup. Can I get a motion to support that? Councillor DeRush, Deputy LaRose, any questions or comment from council? Seeing none, call for a vote. All those in favor? Opposed? That motion carries. Thank you. Item C is referral to upcoming agenda and staff items. So the referral items, we currently have 1 item, calming measures for Belzile Drive and Thompson Road. That was brought forward, and we're looking to have a report come back in Q3 of 2024. So in this section, that the Transportation Environmental Services section endorsed the following addition and existing referral to upcoming agenda and staff. Can I get a mover? Councillor LaRue, seconder, Councillor Waters. Any members of council wishing to add anything to this area? Yeah.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just with respect to that septage matter in the letter from the town of Midland, and I'm not sure, I'll maybe refer the questions through you to the director with respect to, is this matter now closed or is there still ongoing discussions? I know we have some operators in town that service some of the septic systems in our rural areas that have to access facilities to dispose of the septage and things that are pumped out of these septic tanks. And I'm just wondering what happens now? What are the next steps? So it's tied with that referral item, and if it's something that we need to keep going, and because it's not done yet, then maybe that could be added. But I'll ask the director first if I could.
Brian, could you please?
Thank you. Through you, Madam Chair, to Councillor Vadabancourt. In terms of the septage response letter that we got from the town of Midland, I would consider that as still a live, an ongoing discussion with our counterparts in Midland. So I would consider that an active item.
Thank you for that response. If that's the case, then Madam Chair, what I would propose that that be put on our referral list as an active item. With a goal of getting a resolution to the disposal and treatment of septage at some point from Town of Penetanguishene residents. Thank you.
Do we need some help with, yeah, we need a seconder for that. Mayor Rawson, thank you. All those in favor? Okay, that motion carries. We're okay with wordings?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Any other items to be added to referral items? Seeing none, all those in favor? I think maybe I had a mover and seconder, right? All those in favor? Okay, thank you. Opposed? Okay, that motion carries. Question in section D, any questions from the media and public with regards to the section and items just discussed? Seeing none, I'll turn it back to you.
Thank you, Councillor Marshall. I'm going to move on to 7, section B, Recreation Community Services. I'm going to turn the chair to Councillor Waters.
Thank you. Recreation Community Services tonight has 2 items on the consent agenda. Basically just minutes. We have the minutes from the Museum and Heritage Advisory Committee meeting minutes and the Penetanguishene Library Board minutes. Does anybody wish to discuss any of these items? Seeing none, then I guess the motion reads that the following consent agenda items, having been given due consideration, be received for information. The first being the Museum and Heritage Advisory Committee meeting minutes from May 9th, 2024, and the Penetanguishene Library Board minutes, April 29, 2024. And we need a mover for that. Deputy Bonita, and a seconder, Councillor Vadabancourt, and all in favor, and that carries. We also have no matters for consideration tonight. We do have two items on the consent agenda, referrals. The first item was the accessible mat, which I believe has already been finished. And the second is the skateboard park review. Does anybody wish to add anything else to this? Seeing none, I'll read the motion that the Recreation and Community Services section endorse the following addition and existing referrals to the upcoming agenda and staff. First is the accessible mats at the municipal beaches. The second would be the skateboard park review. I guess the mats need to be removed because it's already been done. And do we have a mover? Councillor Marshall, and a second. Councillor Benita. All in favor? And that passes as well. Thank you. And does anybody have any questions from the media or public on this matter? And we'll let the mayor take over.
Thank you, Councillor Waters. I'm going to move on to 8, Section C's Planning Community Development Services section. I'm going to turn the chair to Councillor Vadabunker.
Thank you, Worship. On the Planning and Community Development Services section, we have 5 consent items. And I'll read the motion that the following consent agenda items having been given due consideration be received for information. We have the Committee of Adjustment minutes from May 27th. We have a memo from the Director of Planning and Community Development providing information on Bill 185 that it received royal assent and the impacts on the municipality. The third item is a memo from our planner dealing with a complete applications been received for draft plan of subdivision and zoning bylaw amendment applications for a property at 128 Burke Street. We have a memo from the Director of Planning and Community Development providing council with a second quarter update on activities within the Planning and Development Department. And our last item is our monthly activity report from our municipal law enforcement officer for the month of June. Does any member of council wish to pull any of those items and speak to them separately? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion or a mover and a seconder. Deputy Mayor LaRose and Councillor Waters. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. We have one matter for consideration, and that is a report dealing with the land acquisition request for 51 Dunlop Street submitted by the town of Penetanguishene Protestant Separate School Board. And there's quite an extensive report in our package. It was authored by our Director of Planning and Community Services with collaboration from various staff. And I'm going to ask our CAO if he wouldn't mind providing the highlights of that report. Mr. CAO.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I'll start by piggybacking off what you just said, which is it is a very comprehensive report. 11-page report of this magnitude with a number of moving parts doesn't happen overnight. So certainly our Director of Planning and Community Development, Andrew Betty, and our Director of Rec and Community Services, Sherry Desjardins, with a multitude of other staff, finance, public works, capital assets, et cetera, played a huge part in pulling this report together. Certainly from staff's perspective, we're excited and thrilled for Burkeville on their ability to secure significant funding for their growth and expansion. And we looked at this report through the lens of collaboration, engagement, and community partnerships. And we also looked at it from the lens that, funding obligations and requirements that are imposed on Burkeville from the province are slightly mismatched with the process that we need to follow at a municipal level. And particularly with respect to 51 Dunlop. And we touch on that in the report as it relates to the timing. And certainly no doubt the quality of the facility that Burkeville truly provides, we heard that this evening loud and clear from the multitude of delegations and open forum comments. From staff's perspective, we looked at this in a vein that, we want to not we want to be sure that without proper collaboration, we aren't recreating a problem that we as a municipality today have, which is space as it relates to our current facility and our current arena. We looked at the Arena and Recreation Community Center study that talked about, that we would need a minimum of 10 acres, which excluded outdoor amenities or sports fields, and we need to maximize the new facility's potential. And we also recognize that there are unknowns that exist today that really we would need to sort out and talk our way through in a collaboration and engagement process, and want to ensure that we go through all those pieces in an appropriate manner. And just really, we kept driving back at a staff level that really this process requires proper consultation and engagement, particularly for a significant build of this nature. You only do these once every 50, 60, 70 years. And certainly it needs and deserves the time and attention. Our official plan, the report talks a little bit about the official plan and how it really guides the municipality's plans for the property at 51 Dunlop, and identified in particular, this was one of two properties in the municipality for special study, consultation, and approval process. The recommendation that you see in the staff report, which I'll touch on momentarily, does conform to the official plan policies and certainly the direction that we've received from council to date. And we also wanted to recognize the timing realities that come with OPAs, or official plan amendments, and respective site plan approvals. These things take time and need the due process. And, certainly, I guess the last point I would make before I wrap up in summarizing the report is we recognize there may be opportunity for faster approval decisions or approvals, I guess, at a provincial level. That's really unclear to staff around what that looked like, what that might look like, what might be involved, and in particular, how fast might that timing be expedited? But certainly, we're cognizant of the fact that there is potential that could occur by the province. And so when we think about all the pieces I just summarized, and certainly, the information in that 11-page report, we landed on the recommendation we landed on. And I'll just say that we've had a lot of great dialogue with Burkeville, certainly at the board level, but also at the staff level. And I can't think of a previous example where we've had as good of collaboration and partnership and discussion as we have with Burkeville. And in particular, I'm gonna call out Sean and Tim, because they've been nothing short of tremendous in this process with staff. So that all said, we believe at a staff level that there's more consultation and collaboration that needs to happen. We are excited and thrilled to recommend to council that we go down this further collaboration path. We recognize that it will take some time, and perhaps time that might not be on Burkeville's side. But we're more than prepared and more than thrilled to recommend continuing to explore the viability of that potential partnership with Burkeville, and ultimately go through that process as it relates to a community hub. Mr. Chair, I appreciate that might have been a little bit longer than just a brief summary, but I thought it deserved the time and attention given the thoroughness in the report. So I appreciate it. Staff would be happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. CAO. Members of council, any questions on the report? Yes, Councillor Marchand.
Thank you. And thank you, CAO Lees, for taking the extra time to really highlight those key pieces. And I do commend staff. This was a very thorough report, and it's not easy sitting up here as members of council and knowing that these are big decisions that have huge impacts on our current students, our future, and just all of the delegations that were here this evening. It was just so wonderful to hear, and we continue to be fortunate to have such a great school within our community, and so thrilled for the funding. I I really do appreciate that there's a lot of moving parts. You know, as your new members of council, there's some decisions that were made before you come into this chair, and then you navigate what those decisions look like as we move forward with the best possible way forward. And being educated and understanding the processes has been my biggest learning in these last 2 years. And this has been by no means, the report really helps clarify the various pieces that go along with rezoning and you know, choosing to make changes to our master plan and other pieces that fall under the planning and planning amendment, and just you know, I have the huge appreciation for the Planning Act and all those pieces that come with it. So I'm really excited that we're going to continue to have these discussions. I'm support of this motion and understand that timelines are tight, but hopefully we can expedite it and figure something out, because I think this is a really great opportunity for our community. But just really wanted to highlight that I appreciate that this is not just one area of staff that commented. So many departments and the whole town is impacted, and these are things we need to really understand and take into consideration. And so thank you everyone for your passion, everything you're doing to move this project and this new school forward, and for staff for really outlining so we have all of the information to make really good decisions. And so just wanted to share that and say thank you for that report.
Thank you, Councillor Marchand. Mayor Rawson.
Thank you, Councillor Vadabunker. I got 3 questions and a statement if I can. My first 2 questions I'll put together, and perhaps if I can direct it to our Director of Planning. Andrea, there's 3 recommendations in the report. Recommendation 1 is about consultation and collaboration and figure out what the future looks like. The report talks about a 24, 36-month kind of time frame. Option 3 discusses an opportunity where basically we can declare land surplus and go through that process. Can you just help me understand a little bit about those timelines, like high level, what that means, and what would option 3 timeline look like, and what's entailed with that, just from high level? I know it's in the report, but I just want to understand it better. And I know there's a lot of moving parts and provincial policy and county, but can you just help us understand what that means? And then, Mr. Chair, if it's okay, I have one more question and a statement if I can.
Thank you through you, Mr. Chair, to His Worship. So it is very complicated, and I'll try my best to keep it simple and straightforward. This town is fortunate that we have a fairly new official plan document, and when we developed that official plan in 2018, we did very specifically look at some important sites in the town, that is why this property is designated as a future study area. That future study area under the policies of the official plan requires that consultation and a comprehensive plan be conducted before any final decisions on what will eventually be built there happen. So that policy requires an official plan amendment to happen. The scope of that official plan amendment is more in council's bailiwick to do. So an official plan amendment under the policies that are in the official plan currently say it's a comprehensive process. It involves multiple stakeholders. We engage with agencies, and I think in that on option 1, I've suggested that time frame could take 12 to 24 months, or 18 to 24 months to do all of that official plan work that would eventually get the property to a point of shovel readiness, I guess, for building permits. So that's just on the planning side of things in a best case scenario for when we start the work on this. The unknown piece to a lot of it is the technical reports that need to be prepared. There's been a lot of things change in that area, although it was once a school. There's been some changes, a new school, a new recreation center, and a major plan of subdivision surrounding the property has changed a lot of what's going to happen up there. And so these technical reports need to be conducted, a new traffic impact study, a new functional service and stormwater management report. Those technical studies, I couldn't even start to ballpark how quickly they could be done. I would think 4 to 8 months to build those in order to even start that planning process, which is about 18 months, I'll say on average under option 1. Option 3, which is more direct in terms of a surplus and development process, it still requires an official plan amendment, but that's where council could say, you know what, we're going to change the official plan to remove the future study overlay from it and not do the comprehensive plan and not do what the policies of the official plan say. There'd be some other things I would need to likely look into and say what that official plan amendment could look like. Does that expedite the process significantly? Not much. It's still looking at a year to 18 months to get this through. There is an official plan amendment is adopted by council of the town of Penetanguishene, but isn't final until the county of Simcoe approves it. So this, that is somewhat out of our hands when we include the county of Simcoe, what their timing looks like for the planning process. So I wish, we had some better details on what it looks like, but I would say, the planning process alone, somewhere between 18 to 24 months is likely.
Thank you very much, Andrea. Mr. Chair, if you don't mind. If I can, I have a question for our CEO. CEO, tonight, as we all know, Mr. Graham presented and talked about our working group, and this council brought forward a motion a while ago about a working group that's about collaboration and what this could look like at 51 Dunlop. Can you just provide a status? Where are we with this working group? Who's involved? Kind of what's our goal here? Do we have a timeline when we anticipate that work to wrap up? And is that group solely inclusive with Burkeville, or who are some of the other players that be a participant to that? If you can, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. So as it relates to the working group that was established, council just ratified the terms of reference at our June council meeting. So last month, the terms of reference were ratified. So we've now got the composition of the working group established. We are in the midst. We've had a few little challenges in terms of getting the first meeting scheduled, but we're going back to that group to schedule that first kickoff meeting. We were hopeful that it would be kind of this week or next week, but vacations and summer schedule have just not permitted that. And we did have some challenges hearing back from a couple folks. And then on our end, we had a little miscommunication around getting in touch with one of our participants. Certainly in terms of composition, the composition in terms of external groups, there's the 5 school boards that exist in the municipality, including Burkeville. The county of Simcoe is going to participate on both the land use planning side as well as the attainable housing side. And last but not least, the Ministry of Education has been invited to participate. We're hopeful that they will, but we've struggled to receive confirmation from them. So that's the groups that are invited and will participate in the process. In terms of timeline, the timeline's a difficult one. What we've at a staff level said, and we've included this in the report, we would be looking at a minimum of 24 months to go through that process as a whole, to really iron out partnerships, what does that look like, who's involved, funding, et cetera. And so that's how we've positioned it based on the information we've been able to garner, not only through other municipal colleagues, but also through discussions with our experts that conducted and completed our ARC study. So, Your Worship, hopefully I addressed all of those questions.
Thank you, Mr. CEO. And if I can, Mr. Chair, this is a big topic. It's a generational lifetime issue before our community. And I've said from the beginning, I'll do all I can to make Burkeville successful in their pursuit of a new school. And I'll continue saying that again today. I think the staff report was phenomenal, and I think the recommendation's phenomenal. I think, unfortunately, what's before us is there's a timeline crunch forced by an external partner who's not the board. The board's been doing tremendous work to advocate for what they need, but an external force is saying it's got to happen sooner than not. I think the staff, again, recommendation is about doing consultation. It's about finding, what does this really look like? And I think we did that in good fashion when we started this process, because we wanted to work collaboratively with our partners to make this a successful venture. But dialogue we've had over the last little while is the timelines don't fit. I'm hearing that the push is, and I believe, again, it was communicated tonight by Mr. Graham, was September 27. We need the bell ringing. And what we're hearing from us is we can't meet that timeline. I want to be a good partner. And I think us saying, let's continue going down that path, I don't think is going to set you up for success because you need land today. And what we're saying is we need 2 more years plus to figure it out. And honestly, I want nothing more than to be the partner that we've said we're going to be. And I want to be that partner, but I think I want to do option 1 tonight, but I think us saying option 1, I don't think is in our collective best interest tonight, because I think we're going to lay on and you're not going to look at your next best opportunity. I think tomorrow morning, you need to be able to find the next best opportunity, that piece of land. We all want to take the time to figure it out and calculate and make this work. But I don't know if our timelines fit. Option 3, in my view, is not a viable option. And the reason why is it doesn't provide us the opportunity to collaborate on what's best for the community, the residents, the patrons of the school, the people that are going to use our future community center. I think it needs more dialogue. I think it needs more work. I think there's so much good energy and good ideas and good everything, but we need the dialogue that, and it's nothing about anybody here. An external force said, don't talk, make it happen. And that's unfortunate. What I wish we could do is option 1, but let's get all the players together. The CEO just mentioned about the work group, about reaching out to Ministry of Education. I think that's commendable. And I think the more we can get the players that make decisions happen, that's what I would really love to see. I'm at a really crossroads right now, honestly, what to do. Chair Cousins, you and I have had multiple calls over the last couple of weeks, probably 10 in the last 2 days. I want to be a good partner, but my heart right now is telling me option 1 is not in your best interest, because I really believe you need to make a decision to move. And I think the longer we're saying, come to another meeting, I don't think that's giving you what you want. I think you want to know, I've got this piece of property. The other thing I want to be mindful of is our staff. I think our staff are second to none. I think they do great work. And last month, I believe Burkeville wanted us to have this debate last month. And we said we need to give it the time and the process to get here. And then I also mentioned we won't have final decision until next month when council hears what committee said. Well, I haven't had the conversation with our staff if they have the capacity to do this work, to do what we need to do to get it happen on your timeline. And I don't know if that's fair to our staff. And I don't want to ask the question tonight because they already have a work plan. And I don't know if it's fair for us and our community to say, pause everything and make this the priority. And I just want to be open and transparent with that as a process. I think we need to be fair to one another about that. That's what caused my tentativeness on option 1. I have no qualm on voting in favor of it tonight. I don't think it's the right thing as a partner. I really don't. Unless I see a lot of head shakes saying, no, let's do that. I think you need land tomorrow. Council, I'm at a crossroads on this. I really am. I know we all said let's go down this as a partnership and let's figure it out. And when we started that conversation, $17 million didn't roll in town. But since then, the environment's changed. So I'd love to hear what other members are thinking and feeling. I know since our last letter, I asked the CEO, can we reach out to Burkeville? And you did. Within days you met and you mentioned you reached out to Tim and Sean, and tremendous dialogue has happened. And I think we've made things happen to get it to council. And council, we all know we bring referrals. Nothing happens this fast. I'm just concerned that we're not going to hit your timeline, honestly. And I want to be honest and a good partner. So council, I would vote for option 1, but I don't think it's best for our partners tonight, knowing what I know. And I don't think option 3 is the best option because I think we need to collaborate and figure out what that looks like. If there's a way forward, I'm all ears. But I know the passion you have. I know the drive you have, and I want you to be successful. And anything I can do, I'll do. But I don't think 51 Dunlop is the answer from what I know here and today. And I'm sorry to say that. Thanks, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Worship. Any other comments at this point? Yes, Councillor LaRue.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I too, I know I was through the process during the period of time I was the mayor, that we've had meetings with Lynn and the board and hopefully getting something along. Never did expect that they were going to get the funding that they got. That was a bonus. However, I have to say that it is unfortunate, but I'm prepared to support the number 1, which is continue to explore the viability. But at the same time, is it wise? Does it make any sense that we already know that it's going to take at least a year and a half or possibly 2 years to even get there? and you have to move along before that time. So I think it's something where the board has to let us know, do they want to continue to explore? And because we, as council, to make the property decision, we still have a lot of questions that need answering. And it's unfortunate. I wonder if I could ask Mr. Graham or Lynn, was there any private property owners that were approached or that you know can be approached for your project?
Ms. Cousins, if you wouldn't mind just going to the microphone just so that our audience can hear you and the people that may be watching at home or after the meeting can hear the answer. Thank you.
We have been looking at working with a realtor. We have been looking at various options, but as we all know, we have to be within the town of Penetanguishene because we're the Protestant separate school board of the town of Penetanguishene, and we're chartered to that, staying within the town limits. So it's sparse, and we're running into difficulty with finding a property. We do have the availability of a piece of property, but that has to go through the process and so on, servicing and so on and so forth. So we're being dictated in a way, by the ministry that is saying the school's got to be operable by year 27. It doesn't give us a lot of time in order to move. So we're in a very awkward position. Then we have to listen to the fact that we have a staff that have sang and smiled under difficulty for over 10 years. We have students that are cramped. So we've got that responsibility of worrying about our parents and the inconvenience to the educational part of the school. So it manifests itself. So we're working with the ministry. We have to follow what they tell us to do. It's their money and it's the taxpayers' money. So we have to adhere to that and do the very best that we can follow the timelines. We're fortunate that we have good relationship with the ministry, but they're giving us that timeline. So we would love to continue dialoguing with you. We certainly would, and we do not rule it out. But without the Capital Branch support, they did say there is some wiggle room for us, but how much wiggle room? They haven't really been given a definitive answer. So we will just have to continue on and, as we've done in 10 years, plow away and see. But I don't give up. And we will we will get a school and we will have it built. And it's just a process that we'll work through. We've been knocked down before and we will get back up and have another try. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair Cousins. Mayor Rawson.
Thanks. Just to follow up to Councillor Roux's question, just for more clarity. Thanks, Councillor Roux. Without giving out the specifics, I think that just speaks volumes to what staff have done. The CEO and the director did reach out to Burkeville and did pass on some information to a third party with land that potentially can meet their needs. I know that they have evaluated that property. So over and above their real estate work they're doing, staff have also done that work over and above what they're recommending here. So thanks for bringing that up.
Thank you, Your Worship. Any other questions or comments? Okay, I'm going to take the opportunity, if I may. I have a couple of comments, and I'll just start by saying I'm already there. I'm already there in terms of the school being there with an arena together and the community using both facilities as part of a hub. I'm already there. It's just, how do we get there? And you know, I'm like the mayor, I'm a little torn, but I'm also excited because I still think there's an opportunity there. 6 months ago, we didn't have $17 million, you know, and that was one piece of this hub is the school part. The second piece is our arena part. And the arena part, it's going to be a $46 million project. So it's a few years away. The school is going to be there first, and the arena will follow. It's just, how do we get there? And I know that, you know, from the answer that I got earlier, the school board has engaged potentially the Halton Board of Education to assist us. Assist it in terms of going through its capital process. And I was really happy to hear that they've got experience in dealing with hubs, because I think that's so important. I have a question for Mr. CAO, and we talked about this at our section meeting. If we're going to achieve what we want to achieve, I don't think this can be a corner of the desk type project. This has to be, as the mayor indicated, has to be a priority. Do we have the resources internally to be able to dedicate what it would take to move this project along, or should we be looking at potential outside? And that's not a criticism of our staff, because everybody's working really hard. But if we're gonna get there, should we be looking at outside resources to assist us in this process to move this along?
Through you, Mr. Chair, when I think about, you know, the question and the process, certainly one, you know, there are components of the process that we would need to engage assistance. And for example, the master plan comes to mind. You know, there would need to be different components of that master plan that we would need outside, you know, expertise to be engaged. I think as a staff, as a team, I think I would want to have that conversation internally to see to what extent that might look like and what's the budget that would be required, you know, to go through that OPA piece. But the short answer is, I think there are elements of this process that would need outside external expertise. And to your point, that's not a criticism of staff internally. It's simply the fact of capacity. And this is not something that we envisioned happening in 24, not even 25, you know, and so this is something that has been kind of dropped on our desk, and not in a bad way. I mean, we know why, and thank you to the province and the 17.1 million, but certainly the short answer is we would definitely need some, to what extent I would need to have some collaboration internally.
Thank you, Mr. CAO. And that was my thought as well, like something like a multidisciplinary engineering firm that was able to do planning, traffic studies, civil, you know, functional, all those things. If we had something like that, that might be something that could move things along. Another question I had is with respect to process, and we talked about process, and there's going to be several processes that we're going to have to embark on. Can we be doing some of these processes concurrently? For example, official plan amendment, site plan agreement, sale of property. Can we be doing all of those concurrently as opposed to in sequence, you know, following one after another? I'm just looking at ways to compress that timeline, and I understand what the director said in terms of timeline, but is there a way that we can compress the timeline by doing some of these processes concurrently?
Through you, Mr. Chair, it's a great question, and we've had a little bit of conversation about this at a staff level. I think the short answer is possibly, and I say that because, you know, there are certain elements that require decision points before we move to the next step. For example, I think first and foremost, we would need to understand, what does a potential partnership hub look like? And what does that mean for the town? What does it mean for Burkeville? Before we go too far down the path with the master planning process, and before Burkeville goes too far down the path with their site plan process. So that's just one example, but there are pieces to this process. And I say process big P because there's a number of different elements to this that, might be able to be done in sequence or in tandem, but there's also definitely components that you don't want to put the cart before the horse and start going down a path before we've got a decision point that council and Burkeville has come to terms and are standing in solidarity on. So hopefully that addresses the question. I think there definitely are components. What does that do to that 24-month timeline? Tough to say. Certainly internally, we've had the conversation that we think that 24-month is kind of a safe bet from, when we think about the minimum time required to go through from start to finish.
Thank you for that answer. And certain parts of what you've talked about, I think are contingent on the second phase of this, if I could describe it, having an arena there. Because I think, from my perspective, knowing what I know, is that the school is going to be there for several years before the municipality is going to be in a position financially to afford to put the arena there. So there's time for some of those conversations. And it may be because of the reality, the land has to be sold, that Burkeville could function as an independent entity in perpetuity if the municipality, wasn't in a position to build an arena there. So that's just an editorial comment. My third question has to do with the declaration of the properties being surplus. Is a declaration of a property being surplus, does that commit the town to selling property?
Your Worship, I'm going to let the clerk knows this process much better than I do, so I think she'd be well positioned to answer.
Thank you, Mr. CAO. Certainly, the purpose of council passing a motion to declare land surplus is that the council has decided that they'd like to sell it. Certainly, that has to follow our land acquisition and sale process, which is well documented. So all of that would have to be handled, which would be recommended in the staff report on how we would handle that in this specific circumstance. It would be a little more complicated than a normal declare surplus and sale for obvious reasons, but certainly that would declare that intent.
Thank you. One of the questions I had is with respect to the site planning, and with the Halton Board of Education, I don't know whether they have internal architects or they also engage consultants to work on their site plans for their builds. So it may be premature to even have the conversation, but it would be very helpful if there was resources that could be brought to bear from the school board to assist us in this exercise, as opposed to having to go out and engage separate expertise to look at how the property, the 13.6 acres of 51 Dunlop, could be divided in terms of providing 4 acres for the school and the balance for an arena facility. How would that work? As I said, I'm already there. I know where things should go, but I think it needs a professional to look at that and lay it out. And I think, from that standpoint, having those resources available would be helpful. My last question has to do with some of the tools under the Planning Act. We heard a little bit earlier tonight through our development charge presentation, and then our director talked about some of the tools that have been introduced under Bill 185 with respect to accelerating the construction of community facilities and going through planning processes or altering planning processes. And I'm just wondering, I know some of these tools, the paint isn't even dry on the ink that has put them in place, but is there the possibility of using some of these tools? I know they were specifically, if you've had the opportunity to read the director's memo with respect to community facilities, they were targeted exactly to this type of thing. Because the province, I think, wanted to move projects like this along, school builds, et cetera, et cetera. So is there the opportunity to use some of those tools, or at least explore, what the possibility of using some of those tools under Bill 185?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I'll probably field that question. So yeah, Bill 185 is really fresh off the presses, and the regulations around what the process could be for expediting school construction isn't released. So we don't know what steps in the process may come out of that. I think there's a sense around planners that it's similar to a minister's zoning order, where there still needs to be some steps in a public consultation process, but that the final decision rests at the minister instead of the council. So that, as I understand it, the municipality would have to champion sort of either the minister's zoning order or this community facilities permission when it becomes available.
Thank you, Madam Director. Those are my questions. Does anybody have any other questions? Your Worship, and then the Deputy Mayor. Okay. Mr. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm kind of at a crossroads. I've always liked the idea of having a public partner, a school partner, any kind of a partner to make this run. But with all the comments and all the stuff that's been made and everything we've been talking about, just to play devil's advocate for a minute, what if we do go down this road and it does take 24 months, as staff is saying, and that's very believable, and it's not the outcome that would be beneficial to Burkeville? What if the population of the town comes and says, hey, I don't want to lose 4 acres of that land? We've said that land is for a rec facility. What if that changes the plan so it wouldn't work, and pressure came to bear where we let them waste 2 years waiting for us, and we're all working towards it, and it doesn't happen? I would just hate to see all these years they've been looking for money for a school, and we were all there that day and nobody was happier than everybody in the building. But I'd hate to see you have $17 million and not be able to use it, and it all fall apart at the end. If we had known 2 or 3 years in advance, I think this would be a whole lot easier conversation. So what would happen? That's my only comment.
If I may, my response to that, Mr. Deputy Mayor, would be that would be a very important piece right up front. That community consultation to gauge the view of the residents of Penetanguishene would have to be done very quickly early on, because you wouldn't want to proceed and find out at 24 months that, no, maybe that's not such a great idea, so that consultation would have to happen, very early on in the process. But that's just my response. So, but good question. Your Worship.
Thank you. This is a tough one, and I'm trying to make a decision tonight based on fact, not emotion. The Deputy Mayor was right. On the funding announcement, there was nothing but joy. I'm watching body language here tonight, and I think everyone knows what's in your best interest. And I'm just going to say it. 51 Dunlop's not in your best interest, because I've said from day one, we need to be open and collaborative with the community. I want to be transparent with the community. It doesn't sit well with me to say, yeah, but we're going to make this happen really fast because we need this to happen. I just don't think that's right. Here's the other fact. You have said that the school bells need to ring September of 27. I've heard from the community, the school community, that teachers are cramped, students are cramped. We don't have a room for this. I think you want more a school that you can ring the bell tomorrow than making the hub become a reality. Because the hub becoming a reality is time. I think, unfortunately, you were not set up with success. And what I mean by that is you received money to build something, but you didn't have anywhere to go. And they said, hurry up, make it happen. That's not your fault. That's not our fault. That's just the current reality. That's what I'm going to call politics. And I think what's in your best interest is that we say 51 is not your reality. And I'm sorry to say that, I really am, but I know your passion is, and Lynn, you said it, you said it's going to happen. And I think moving forward with not even considering that is in your best interest, because everything I've heard tonight is time, and time is this, but everything has been, can we shrink it a little bit? But your little bit isn't enough. You want to dig tomorrow. Council, I really believe what's fair to Burkeville, what's fair to our community, what's fair to our staff is option 2. I really do. And it hurts me to say that. I've met with you many times, and you know that's not easy to say, but I really believe it. Mr. Chair, I'm going to move option 2. I know it's not the popular option, but I need to say it. But I want to add a little piece to it. And I want to add that I want our staff to continue to work with you. I want our staff to continue to do anything they can in their capacity to help you find property, to help you with the process, to help you make this become a reality tomorrow. Because the reality is, if we go down the consultation path, next council is going to be still talking about this. This council won't be here to make those decisions with you. That's reality. Again, politics, election cycles, all that stuff. I really think that's the best thing. So, Mr. Chair, I'd love to move option 2. I'd like to add a little piece that staff continue to work with Burkeville in whatever capacity we can to help them find and acquire land for your purposes. I know our director's already done that. And to continue helping facilitate the planning process. I can rest easy tonight on that because I do believe it's in your best interest. I know you want the school to happen sooner than not. And I really think that's the best thing. I'm sorry, but I believe that. I'm going to move that, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Your Worship. Madam Clerk, is it clear what the mayor is moving?
I can sort of put together what I think his end that is, just for council's awareness. So option 2 is that council of the town of Penetanguishene confirm that 5.5 hectares, 13.6 acres of land at 51 Dunlop Street be required for future municipal needs, and that staff be directed to continue to work with the Protestant Separate School Board to assist in facilitating the planning process for a future school in Penetanguishene.
I'm good with that.
I was just looking at option 2. Okay, thank you. I was confused with the numbers there, so thank you. Is there, pardon me? Where we have a motion, maybe I'll just ask for a seconder before, and then Chair Cousins, I'll ask permission of council for you to speak, if that's okay. Is there a seconder to that motion? So Councillor Waters has seconded that motion. So at this point, we'll pause. Members of council, do we want to hear from Chair Cousins at this point? The consensus is yes. Chair Cousins.
On behalf of the Protestant Separate School Board of the town of Penetanguishene, we want to thank your worship and council and staff for showing due diligence. We can ask for nothing more. And we thank you very much for every endeavor and every conversation that you and I have had, your worship. We've been very grateful that we've received this kind of reception, and thank you very much indeed for your time, effort, and energy. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Cousins. Does anybody have any comments on the motion? I do. It's been talked a couple of times, words such as generational. The CAO used that term. Your worship, you use that term. We have a generational opportunity here, and these types of opportunities don't come along every day, where you have the opportunity to work with an organization and achieve something, in my opinion, that would be truly outstanding for the community. You know, think about it, you know, a single pad arena, community hall, triple gym, change rooms, you know, shared parking, potentially park facilities nearby. And if we support the motion that the mayor has put forward, that's going to end. And speaking personally, I'm not at that point yet. I want to keep trying. I think that it's an effort worth doing because it only comes around once every 50, 60 years. And I was mentioning to the mayor in a conversation earlier when we were talking about this is, you know, like when you serve on council, you're here for a particular period of time and then you're off. And we make many, many decisions. And, you know, 50, 60 years ago, what decision is the community going to remember that this council made with respect to this particular issue, you know? And because there was an opportunity, and if it passes, we did not take that opportunity. So anyway, those are my views. Any other comments? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 opposed. Motion carries. Thank you. Moving to referrals on the upcoming agendas, we have 4 referrals that the Planning and Community Development Services section endorsed the following additional and existing referrals to upcoming agendas and staff. And we have the cell tower public notification procedure. We have the HCF Affordable Housing Project, the land request from Burkeville. This is committee of the whole, so this will go to council in August, so it needs to stay on. And that, I should clarify, that's a recommendation tonight. This is a recommendation from committee of the whole that will go to council in August, and will be the final decision in August. And then the last one is property at 161 Church Street, options for future use. Are there any other items that members of council would want to add to the referral list? Seeing none, may I have a mover then? Yes, Deputy Mayor LaRose, second, Councillor Waters. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed? Seeing none, the motion carries. Questions from the media and the public? Any members of the public have any questions? Sarah, anybody online have any questions?
We have no one online. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Your worship, I'm going to turn back to you.
Thank you, Councillor Vedebunker. Thank you, Lynn, for your comments. I appreciate your courageous and work you've done, and we'll continue being a partner. Thank you so much. 9, Section D, Finance and Corporate Services section. I'm going to turn it to Councillor DeRush.
Thank you so much. So on our consent agenda item, we do have 3 items. The first is a memo from the Director of Finance Treasurer regarding the draft 10-year development charges background study and draft development charges bylaw. The second item is the Communications and Social Media Activity Report, semi-annual update January 2024 to June 2024. It's Clerk's Report 2024-05. And the third item is a memo from the CAO regarding the CNCC policing costs update. And the recommended action is that the following consent agenda items, having been given due consideration, be received for information. Get a mover and a seconder, please. Moved by Councillor Leroux, seconded by Councillor Vedebunker. Do we have any comments or? Yes, Mayor Rawson.
Thank you, Councillor Josh. Just a small update for everyone about item 3, the CNCC policing cost update. Thanks, CEO, for crafting that. Councillor, recall a while ago we talked about next steps in action. So this is really to prepare us for that, get us ready. On a positive note, we know we've put forward to delegate to the Solgen at AMO this year. We did have an audience with the Solgen, as I previously mentioned, at CNCC a little while ago, but they've accepted our AMO delegation. So this is positive, and this is just about next steps, preparing us to get there. Because again, we've talked about how do we get to a success metric. So there's been a lot of dialogue and work that's done behind the scenes on that, and I appreciate the CEO bringing that forward. Just a small update for everyone.
Thank you for those comments, Mayor Rawson. Any other comments? Yes, Councillor Marchand.
With regards to item number 3, I have a couple of questions. Can I just pose those now and have them addressed? So I went back to the report from December, and so I appreciate your worship, the clarity in terms of this is preparing us. The memo makes reference to purchasing this platform. A, have we made the purchase? B, I noticed it's a US platform, although there is some Canadian features. And did we pay US funds for the $6,000 for this platform? And before we do the delegation, which I think we were pending, that was kind of like number 4 on the list of things, are we prepared to really look at this mechanism and how we want to, I don't know if hounding the ministry is the right word. I really like the grassroots approach. I think the platform has some utilization. I just didn't know if we were there yet, given that we've just found out about the AMO delegation. But so a couple of my questions are, have we purchased this software? Was it US? And, you know, is this a one-time kind of thing, or as we continue to use it? So just a couple questions there, please.
We'll pass that on to the CAO.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Some great questions there. It is a U.S. platform, so it would be purchased in U.S. dollars. The number that I've included there within the report factors in, so that's Canadian dollars I've included there. I think it's 4,000 US or something like that. So I've kind of give a general, but it's Canadian reference to dollars in the memo. We've not pulled the trigger on purchasing and signing the platform. Literally, the ink is still dry on the ministry giving us the good news on the AMO delegation. I think that has the potential to change things. We were not planning to go live and flick the on switch until the fall anyways. So from my perspective, I think we wait until the AMO delegation. And the mayor and I haven't even had that dialogue, but my recommendation would be that we hold off until the AMO delegation, see what optimism might exist from that. And then we were looking at September at the earliest anyways, before we implement an action one-click politics. So from my perspective, we would not action that until we get a sense of how the August 19th delegation goes with the ministry. Hopefully that addresses all your questions. I'm sorry if it didn't.
Good. Okay. Any other comments on any of these matters? Seeing none, we'll go to the vote. All in favor? Opposed? The motion carries. The second matter, we have one matter for consideration, and it is the digital sign design selection, Clerk's Report 2024-05. And the recommended action is that staff be directed to proceed with quote option 1 as outlined, and that the priority first location be confirmed as Robert Street West and Champlain Road, as previously directed by council. Can I get a mover and a seconder, please, for that motion? Moved by Mayor Rawson, seconded by Deputy Mayor LaRose. Any comments, questions? Yes, Councillor Buttermilker.
I'll defer to Councillor Marchand. She had her hand up there.
Thank you. The report was great. I love option 1. I think I'm still torn, about Robert Street West. I think if we're going to an electric sign, I would almost like to see it right in front of our own town hall, where you kind of see it. There's so many entries into Penetanguishene. I get that there's high traffic there. And I know this is already brought forward, and maybe this is a motion I need to put forward. But I love the look and the design. I think it looks fantastic. I'm excited to have it for our town. I just wondered if maybe there was any consideration that, in terms of placement, is there an opportunity at our town hall in terms of a location? So that's just my question.
Did you want to put a motion on the floor to change the location, or because I think we did have discussions about locations in the past and we kind of came to this, but I don't know that we ever discussed the possibility of having it here in front of the building. So I don't know if other members of council have any comments on that.
I'm happy to hear what other council members say before I bring it forward. If it's, honestly, I love the design. I'm excited. If it's one sign, is that just the right place? I guess I'm kind of torn again. Sorry.
Councillor Buttermilker and then Mayor Rawson.
Thank you. Just to that particular point, I was looking at this as somewhat of a multi-year program. You remember the list of possible locations? There were 9, and kind of tongue in cheek, I think the arena was last on the list, and that's what I was hoping that it would be number 1 or number 2. So I'm hoping that this is multi-year. We made that decision that it was going to be there. Year 2, I'm happy to consider a sign at Town Hall or close to Town Hall. So that's my view. Madam Chair, I had some other comments, but I think you've put it out to everybody, so I'll let everybody else speak on what Councillor Marchand was suggesting.
Okay, I think Councillor Leroux.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, the sign is absolutely well done, beautiful. But as far as Robert Street West and Champlain Road, I'm in agreement with that, and it's talking about it being a first location. But the reason I would say Robert Street West and Champlain is that I know the amount and volume of traffic that comes by there. So I think that for a first would be the place.
Thank you for those comments. So I think, yes, Councillor Vedewalker.
So thank you, Madam Chair. Just with respect to my other comments, thank you for the report. I thought it was really well done, and I agree that the sign is fantastic, and I support option 1 as proposed. And we now have a figure. We now know how much a sign like this costs, and we know how much those other options cost. So heading into budget cycle, which we're going to be going into very shortly, certainly we have some recent information there that we can use. Madam Chair, my question has to do with the software. It talked about the sign itself and 100,000 hours or 1 million hours and whatnot. But in my experience, it's the software that to program the sign that tends to either not get supported, or there's bugs in it or whatever. And as I recall, these things are programmed through a laptop. So you have your laptop, Bluetooth, and you change the message on the sign. And I'm just wondering about the software and whether we had any assurances of support with respect to the software for the sign.
We did discuss that at section, and I will pass that on to the clerk for her to maybe provide the same information that was provided to me.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We did speak in our section review more about specifically the accessibility piece of it, not so much the support of the software. So I'll just ask our communications and technology coordinator to speak to what she learned from the investigation that she did.
Thank you for your question through you, Chair, to Councillor Vadimont-Cora. That was something that we did ask all 3 companies to respond to, and the answer is support for the software is provided. So it is a yearly annual fee, but it is updated, and they do have a service that they can provide, a help desk service. So I am confident that they would be able to keep it updated.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. Any other questions? I believe I do have a mover and a seconder for that motion, so I think we will go to the vote. All in favor? Opposed? The motion is carried. Referral items. We do have 3 items on the docket, but one needs to be removed, the staff position of grants writer. That was passed this evening. So we have 2 remaining items, the paper ballot consideration for 2026 municipal election. And the second item is the non-resident fee review update. I don't believe we're still completed with that topic. Are there any additions that council wishes to provide to this referral list? Yes, Mayor Rawson.
I'll just start it, but I believe Councillor Marchand wanted to bring one forward about MRI GBH, but I'll let you, just a reminder, I'll let you bring that forward. I'd be happy to second if you wish.
I would like to bring forward that we refer back to staff a report with regards to funding to the Georgian Bay General Hospital capital capital expansion for the MRI. I know some of our neighbors within North Simcoe have made contributions to the hospital and to this project, I believe. So I would really like to look at this. This is our community hospital. This MRI will serve the citizens of the town of Penetanguishene. As much as we talk about it is county's responsibility for healthcare, when it comes to capital, that is not supported. So the ministry supported the services and not even 24-hour services for the MRI. So GBGH are moving aggressively to have it in place for January. And again, this is a big build with a big commitment, but it will be servicing all of the all of our members of the town of Penetanguishene.
Okay, so then you will move to have that referral item added to this list.
Yes, please.
Can I get a seconder for that, please? Seconded by Councillor Leroux. We'll then go to a vote. All in favor? Okay, opposed? It is carried. And so we will go, is there anybody else? Yes, Mayor Rawson.
Thank you. I was just looking around the table, see if anyone's going to put up their hand, but I'll start it off. Councillor Roux and I were having a conversation a little while ago about a cooling and a warming center in the community. Over the heat waves over the last little while, there's been conversations about what are we offering to the community about that. I know the CEO and I have had a couple conversations about this. I'm not saying let's hurry up and make something happen for the summer, but I'd like to look at a policy, support, resources. What does that look like that we can provide a concerted effort to provide cooling and warming center. So if Councillor Roux wants to move that, he's happy to. If not, I'll second it. But I know we had that conversation. We said we'd bring it forward tonight.
Sounds good. So moved by Councillor Leroux, seconded by Mayor Rawson. Did you get the gist of that, Madam Clerk? Okay, so then we'll go to the vote. All in favor? Opposed? The motion is carried. Anything else to add to the list? Seeing none, we will go to the original recommendation then that the Finance and Corporate Services section endorse the following additional and existing referrals to upcoming agendas and staff minus the staff position of grants and writer. Can I get a mover and a seconder for that, please? Moved by Councillor Marchand, seconded by Councillor Waters. We'll go to the vote. All in favor? Opposed? The motion is carried. We are now into the question period for media and public. Seeing none, I will pass it back to you, Mayor Rawson.
Thank you very much, Councillor DeRush. I just want to say thanks to staff. I know you did a lot of work to bring forward many reports tonight, but specifically our Burkeville one. Like that was pushed across the line really quickly. I want to thank you for that. I think we did a great job tonight in doing that, and we worked really hard. I think we can be proud of the work we did together. So just thanks. And I'm not getting emailed by Jeff. Can you pass on that to everybody that contributed that? Because that was tremendous. I think we all did a great job on that. So thank you, everyone that contributed. Thanks for a great night, everyone. We're going to adjourn at 10:21. Moved by